All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the April 30th, 2025 meeting of the Wilmington School Committee. Forgive us for starting a few minutes late. We're just returning from an executive session. First item on the agenda, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving right along, our first item of business this evening, recognition of Mr. Jay Samaha. It was strange walking into the room this evening and seeing you in the audience rather than at the table. So I want to take a moment and celebrate and appreciate our friend and colleague Jay Samaha for 6 years of dedicated service to the students and families of the Wilmington Public Schools. I'm going to give everybody here a chance to speak. Jay, of course, you're welcome to make a few comments if you have them, but one of the perks of being the chair is that I get to either decide to go first or last, so I'm going to go first. Mr. Ragsdale.
Can we invite Mr. Samaha to come join us?
I thought he
here?
was comfortable hiding in the back, but if he'd like to come up, he's welcome to do so.
I'd like to invite Mr. Samaha to join us.
You can sit together.
As our guest.
As our guest.
Different view.
Never sat over here before. This is strange.
Welcome to the table.
Thank you.
So Jay, I think one could argue, has dedicated most of his adult life to education as a classroom teacher at the Boston Public Schools, and certainly as a member of this committee. His unwavering commitment to education has been a true benefit to our community, and those insights will be greatly missed. I have said previously to the folks in this room, but I have a special connection with Jay. I've had the pleasure of serving with a lot of the people in this room and also others who aren't here anymore, but Jay and I started this journey together. We were candidates together, we were elected, sworn in together. Our first terms as freshman school committee members together. Less than a year into it, COVID hit, and so we had to quickly adapt, and were forced to sort of change what we knew about education and about teaching. And I appreciated being able to navigate that process with Jay. I've always been able to count on you for thoughtful comments and insights, and that will truly be missed. Your dedication to our community, our schools, and our students has been a tremendous asset over the years. And you will likely go down as having the best diploma presentation choreography in Wildcat history. I want to especially thank your wife Amanda and your kids Nick and Avis for sharing you with us a minimum of every 2 weeks, often much more than that over the last 6 years. I appreciate everything. You'll be greatly missed. Thank you. Yes, we can clap.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before I invite you to make any comments, I'm going to let the committee, Mr. Golden.
Thank you. Jay, I think of, so I went to Catholic school, and servant leadership was an important concept that we talked about there, and I think that you kind of rushing back here for meetings from the school district, from like being in a room all day with kids, which is what it's all about, I think really epitomizes that. So I'll keep it short and sweet and say much respect, and I'll miss you.
Thank you. Mr. Turner.
Thank you. From my seat, it's been phenomenal to have you as a teacher and you as a parent sitting with us and giving us your thoughts. You've always had amazing sorts of comments about all the different decisions we were going to make, and so I really appreciate it. I've learned a great deal from you, and thank you for everything you've done for us.
Dr. McCauley.
Yeah, what Stephen said. I think when as someone who has never worked in education or anything, I think I've learned a lot from you, just talking to you offline or even in the meetings about what it's like to be a teacher. And I think especially with your experience being in Boston and then bringing that here, I think has been really valuable, and I'm going to miss it. And then you're also a really pleasant person to be around too. So, so good luck with your retirement.
Thank you.
Mr. Ragsdale.
So I also wanted to start with your role as a teacher, that was one of the things that brought so much to this committee and this community, and especially something that I I've always admired is that, you work in a district so different from ours. So you're in the largest urban district in the state. But being able to still bring the wisdom and the lessons and what is universal about the challenges that we face and that you faced and your just daily experience working with kids in the classroom, bringing that back to Wilmington and for what was best for our district, I think is something that was a huge advantage for us. But it doesn't really, just being in that position of being a teacher, it's important, but it doesn't necessarily translate to the school committee without perspective and wisdom and values. I think that I'm always so impressed at the way that you are able to keep the kids at the forefront of everything, because that's always the most important thing that we are thinking about, without ever missing the other stakeholders that are part of the system. So your advocacy for teachers, for working parents, I think was never missed, at the same time that the kids are always at the center. They're the center, but they're not the whole picture. And it's important that we were always able to, you helped us see that entire picture all the time. I have remembered multiple cases when you've changed your mind on things, and it's surprisingly rare in the world even of local politics, much less outside of that, and it was sometimes because just things had changed, the scene had changed, the general, time passes and things are no longer the same, and you were able to recognize that. It was sometimes because you were persuaded by an argument made by someone else. You were so good at not just listening to all of the rest of us and to public comments and to the community, but really hearing and really thinking. That not just respectfully listening when people disagree, but really thinking, maybe there's something to that. Maybe I need to think about it. And at the same time that you would do this, but never changing your values, never changing your priorities. That the values, the priorities, always the same, always laser focused, and yet some of the details around them, it's just like, maybe now the priorities lead us to this. Maybe my values now lead me to this. And I think that was something that was really admirable. I regret that you're leaving us, but it was a great 6 years, and I have been really privileged, not just to have you as a colleague, but to have you as a friend. And thank you very much.
Mr. Exel.
I'll just say a quick thank you. It's been an honor. I hope you have some time to think about and reflect on all the things you've contributed, and all the subcommittees and the work that happens outside of this actual space. And so we will miss you. We are very lucky to have worked with you, and Wilmington is very lucky to have had you serving. So thank you.
And you are obviously willing to give up your first free Wednesday night to come back to a school committee meeting, so I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that. Dr. Brand, anybody else want to? No pressure, but.
No, I'll just say, I think there's an eternal bond for anyone who's been around a table like this during these past 6 years of the pandemic. And it was always impressive that you continued, even though knowing leaving a very demanding profession during that time, it would have been understandable and easy for you to have said, I need to step back and take care of my family and sort of navigate the challenges within education, and you, of course, never did. And so much was asked of the members who were in these seats. So on behalf of sort of the committee and the community, if they were to only know all that went into those time periods, thank you for your partnership in navigating the work together. And it's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Well, I didn't really necessarily prepare anything. I kind of didn't know how this was going to go, but thank all of you. I think in meetings in the past, I think I've had a chance to sort of speak to each of you and how you've really contributed to this committee and contributed to sort of my growth and my understanding around education, around government. So I just want to say again, thank you all. I'm really proud of the work that we've done, that I was a part of, that, you guys really helped, shape, the way I view education. So thank you, and I hope that, good luck to all of you continuing in this work, and I'll still be around, and paying attention to this stuff. So if there's any needs, let me know. But thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We do have a small gift, and I'm sure Dr. Bryson would be upset if we don't take a photo, at least one. So take a real
I'll do it, yeah.
quick break to give you this.
Oh, I get to keep that.
Yeah. Here's another.
It's yours.
Perfect. Thank you. You're not going to stick around? No.
And as we say, welcome to stay.
He's going to be out of here as quick as he possibly can. Well, recognizing Mr. Samaha for his time on the committee is a nice transition and segue into welcoming our newest member of the Wilmington School Committee, Ms. Becky Lord. Congratulations. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be a part of this. I'm looking forward to working together and just building the school community. So thank you for having me. I'm really excited. And I just have to say hi, my son Ben is here. So I'm excited. He's here to check the second grader Woburn Street. And there's a piece of cake for you right over there.
Oh,
Gotta tell him that, right?
not at every meeting.
Yeah. Welcome. Congratulations. We look forward to working with you as well. The next item on our agenda is a recognition of Cameron Jenks and acceptance of Eagle Scout project donation. Cameron, come on down, join us at the table. Welcome, good evening. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. How are you all doing?
We're great. How are you?
Good, I'm doing good.
You want to tell us a little bit about your project?
Of course. So my project was to build a toy shed for the kindergarten students that were relocated to the middle school. So, as you all know, the kindergartens had to be relocated into the west and the middle school. And since the middle schools don't have recess, a little inconvenient that they didn't have any recess toys. So I fundraised through the Wilmington community immensely, and we were able to raise enough money to buy or purchase a great shed and a lot of really good toys. And so myself and a group of my other volunteers came by and built the shed. It was a lot of planning that went into it. Worked with the town manager and the DPW for a really long time, and I think it came along really well. I hear the students are really enjoying it. Kids are playing with it every day. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist.
That's great.
Amazing.
Sorry?
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Any questions? Comments? Mr. Golden?
I'll say thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing that. Those kids, they've had their whole kind of educational experience distorted by the building closing. And yes, even if we do end up building a new school, it's still going to be years where each one of those lives could be impacted by getting that chance to have their day brightened up by what you did. So I just hope that you take this kind of moment that we're having right now and you let that feed into a life of public service, because people need it. So thank you very much.
Of course. I hope to keep helping people. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I mean, to that point, it's literally at a minimum 500 or 600 children you've impacted directly. So that's amazing.
Thank you for that.
Just want to say, and thank you. We're in Scouts, and also my son was part of the class where the Wildwood shut down. So we just deeply appreciate what you did, and also I just think your service to as a model for students is so commendable, and we appreciate that you're putting your own time into doing such a big project.
It's a really great project, and it's nice that not only was the need identified, but you were able to do something about it. And to the other comments, that it will continue on past this year, right? Those students will be benefited by that for several years, so that's really great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
Cameron.
appreciate you being here.
I need a formal motion to accept the donation.
So moved.
Paul said we didn't, but okay. Who made the motion? Nick?
Second.
Made by Mr. Golden, second by Mr. Turner. All those in favor of accepting the donation? That's unanimous. Thank you. All right.
Donation of a shed.
We now have our student representatives from the Wilmington Middle School. Is it Callie or Kaylee?
Callie.
Callie LaMarche, Julia Zaya. Good evening, ladies. Zaya. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
We're just here to talk about the clubs and activities at Wilmington Middle School. To start off, we have Paw Print Magazine. The members of Paw Print Literary Magazine have been working hard to create stories, poems, and drawings for their upcoming issue called Welcome to Wonderland. This content will include lots of fantasy and lots of imagination. This is the club's 30th issue, and it actually happens to be the final one for the school year. Submissions for this issue are due May 14th, and then the club will publish the issue on May 28th.
The band has been working very hard preparing for the upcoming spring concert on May 8th. This concert will include grades 4 through 12, and more information will be provided soon.
Best Buddies is gearing up for the biggest event of the year, the Special Olympics. This year, Wilmington Middle School will have 41 students participating in the games. Athletes will get to walk out to a cheering crowd on Friday and see posters for each of them all around the lobby. I will be speaking at the opening ceremony alongside high schooler Will Restuccia. There will be one more Best Buddies meeting at the end of May to celebrate a great year.
The WMS math team just had their last meet of the year today. Their coach, Miss O'Leary, is very proud of their hard work, and the team will be ordering sweatshirts, and they will have one final get-together sometime in May. They finished 4th place in their division, with Jimmy Fitzpatrick being the team captain.
All grades have completed their ELA MCAS, and soon, 6th grade just had their math MCAS today, and soon 7th and 8th grade will be taking theirs.
The World Culture Club has explored Greek heritage in April and will be winding down the year in May with their final meetings. The next 2 meeting themes will be decided by the students, and so far they have explored Hispanic, Italian, Indian, French, Jewish, Lunar and Chinese New Year, Lebanese, Mardi Gras, Irish, and Greek heritage.
The robotics team is preparing for the upcoming 2025-26 first robotics competition year. Returning members have been selected new leadership roles within each team. These students have also begun compiling material lists preparing for next year's competition. Coding team members will have been participating in Java programming courses to enhance their ability to develop a more advanced autonomous program. The 3D printing team has been working on a plaque to celebrate all members this year. The robotics team is also coordinating with high school robotics team members to provide mentorship opportunities for the students to improve their skills. To cap off a good year of robotics, there is an end-of-year robotics party committee. This comes with planning games and organizing treats for a celebratory event in June.
The art show is also coming up on Friday, May 9th from 6 to 8 and Saturday, May 10th from 10 to 1. Both days will be held at the middle school. In our WMS Art Club, there are only 4 weeks left. Currently, they are creating a tie-dye spring collage. Upcoming, there will be distribution day for yearbooks, where all 400 yearbooks are passed out in the entire school. There is also an autograph day, where the entire school goes out and autographs each other's yearbooks and notebooks. This year, autograph day will be accompanied by balloons, bubbles, and music, unlike previous years. Dates for these upcoming events haven't been decided yet, but more information will be coming out soon.
Through Project 351, Wilmington Middle School was able to donate 14 bags of clothing to Cradles to Crayons to help Massachusetts residents who struggle with clothing insecurity. There were also 2 more giant bags that were donated to the WEF bin to help our community in Wilmington. Our Project 351 ambassador, Eliana Goldstein, has stated, "Running the WMS Spring Clothing Drive was such a great experience I could partake in. I am so thankful that the Wilmington Middle School was able to help people and put so many smiles on their faces." Eliana will also be participating in the Project 351 reunion in June to do a full day of community service activities to help those who are less fortunate.
The 8th grade chorus will have their rehearsals and spring concert on May 15th. Unlike past years, the rehearsals will be held in the afternoon instead of the morning, and the 8th grade WMS chorus students will end their day at the high school.
Mr. Kyra, our principal, has been planning a lot of Fuel the Fun events to help fund our Wilmington Middle School student activities. On May 18th, there will be family photos for middle school student families. This event will be held at Rotary Park, and there will be professional photos being offered at a reasonable price. There is also going to be a teacher talent show on Tuesday, May 27th. This is an after-school activity, and tickets will be sold.
On May 19th, there will also be a grade 7 assembly. Animal Adventures Zoo will be coming, and we'd like to thank our PAC for sponsoring this. And on June 10th, our school will be having a combined field day. This means, unlike the previous years where each grade had a separate day for their field days, all grades will be participating in field day at the same day. On the same day, the 8th grade is also having their Aloha Dance.
Another important event for the 8th graders at WMS is their graduation. This moving up ceremony will be held on June 12th.
Monday, April 14th was the No Place for Hate group's recent meeting. Students involved in this group spoke at the staff meeting and talked about upcoming events. They are starting a drive called Change for Change. People in the middle school donate change to the school, and the money goes to the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is a leading suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization for young LGBTQ people.
To help raise more money, Change for Change will be a competition between each team in our school. Challenger 6, 7, and 8, Discovery 6, 7, 8, and then Explore 6, 7, 8 will all be on different teams. In this competition, pennies add to your total, and then other change subtracts from your competitors. For example, a student from Discovery could put a quarter in the bin of bin of change for Challenger, subtracting 25 from Challenger's total.
This group is also making change of paper with the pledge of No Place for Hate on them. They want students and staff to pledge that they will stand up to hate and are hoping around 80% of the WMS will participate.
Also, looking forward to more interviews for humans of WMS. The Instagram is WMS_NoPlaceForHate.
Very much. There's quite a bit going on at the middle school these days. Are there questions or comments from the committee? Dr. McCaldy.
Tell me more about this teacher talent show. Is this,
So basically after school, like the teachers, if they want to just they have a talent, they can, I think they can go with other teachers too, and I think the students just buy tickets to watch after school.
I would like to be there. I think the students are going to enjoy that a lot.
Put a plug out to Mr. Kyra to invite the committee to
That's
the
right,
teacher
yeah.
talent show.
Careful, might turn into school committee talent.
Fair. Mr. Chairman.
I just want to say thank you for all the information, and I appreciate particularly the Project 351 and all the efforts done there. That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Mr. Golden.
Thank you. And I'll say, yeah, it sounds like there's a lot going on. I know you guys are almost at the end of the year, so you're also just excited for like summer break. But I'll also want to shout out and say I'm really glad to hear like the student leadership and students like driving and really pushing like the No Place for Hate work. I think it's really important, and I'm glad to hear that like the students are the ones who are driving that. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome to stay, but if you'd like to go, we won't be upset. We understand. That brings us to our winter athletics recap with Mr. Ingram, and you've brought some guests with you this evening.
I did. Ashvin and Ava, you guys can know.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to be seen. Thank you for having me back. All right, there we are. Okay, thank you for having me, guys. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about the winter recaps, but first we have some special things to discuss. We have a boys track MVP, we have a 1,000-point scorer in basketball, and we have a state championship in cheerleading. But before we get to that, I just wanted to kind of highlight athletics is not one person by any means. There's a lot of people who contribute to make the program so great. This group's probably growing by the day, but there's 3 kids who really helped out. Shavam, Dennis, and Connor. They make these great game graphics and game pictures that they put on Instagram, and it makes my life so much easier, and it promotes the teams and the kids. So we wanted to give them a quick shout out right there.
That's awesome.
And next we have a Middlesex League MVP, Ashvin Baker. He was boys indoor track Middlesex League MVP, and just to embarrass him a little bit, he was supposed to be here last spring to celebrate his state championship in the 400 meters. Yeah. We had a couple scheduling conflicts that never happened, so he's here now, and he's great.
So we are doubly celebrating you tonight then.
Okay.
All right.
And then on my right here, we have a 1,000-point scorer in girls basketball, Ava Boudreau. She's graduating this year with 1,062 points. It is the all-time leading points on the female side. A great season and a great career. Little note to embarrass her is her dad is also a 1,000-point scorer. I think he's reminded you about that a couple times. Actually, at Tewksbury High School. So it was really great. We had a great night when she hit the 1,000 point. The gym was packed. It was a really great night. So we wanted to bring both of these students on here to kind of promote their talents, and maybe if anybody wanted to ask them some questions.
Mr. Golden, please.
Thank you. I want to say congratulations to you both. Ava, I wanted to ask you, how does it feel to be the Diana Taurasi of the school, the most points ever?
It feels good. Like, I haven't really thought about it that much, but it just feels good to, like, be in the school and, like, known for it.
Absolutely. Congrats.
Thank you.
Ava did hustle down here from softball. They had a softball game tonight. So that's why she is in uniform. She's also an all-star for softball as well.
Dr. McCauley.
Yeah. Thanks for coming by and congratulations. Wondering if, I don't know what ages you guys are, but college plans? You're going to continue to do your sports in college?
I have to try out because I'm going to Boston University.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Good luck.
I'm going to Bridgewater State, and I am playing, so
Awesome.
I'm excited.
Yeah, great. Yeah, good luck playing in college.
Yeah.
Have fun.
It's fantastic.
What was worse, the sort of the lead up to 1,000, or once you broke it, there was, that was it more exciting to get there, or was it like a relief to have it behind you?
Before the game, it was really nerve-wracking, like seeing everybody walk in with like my parents had fat heads, so I was like, I was embarrassed for that. But like once I got it over with, it just felt like a relief. Like it took a lot off of me.
That's awesome.
Because everybody's been talking about it since the beginning of the season, and it just felt good to get it over with.
Congratulations to you both.
All right, you guys are relieved.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, and next I have with me, is going to join me, Coach Kylie Valerio, and she brought the state championship trophy with her. So I think we have the whole team here. Everybody's here, that's great. It was quite an exciting season for the girls. It was a very long season. I think the state championship was into March at Worcester State University, and the regionals and the states are all at Worcester State. So we've learned that ride like the back of our hand. We can get there with our eyes closed. We had an all-star, Bella Iasconi. Bella, you can wave. But it was a great season, and we're really proud and we're really happy that they brought the state championship trophy home. They got an escort coming off the highway, which was very exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're just very proud and excited for the coach and for all the members of the team.
That's great. Do you guys, so like when you win the Stanley Cup, right, everybody gets to take it home for a week, and did everybody get a turn with it to bring it home?
I took it home. I took it home the night of states, and then I think for like 2 days I had it, and then I brought it to the school. I had to give it back. I didn't give it to them.
Fair. Questions? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean,
big accomplishment.
It's a great accomplishment, yeah. I mean, really.
It's a great accomplishment, and so you know, Kylie told me right before she came on that she said that she'd be here again next year.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
That was going to be my question. Are we talking repeat?
I'm hoping.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Do you have a lot of the team returning, or are you?
Yes, we just have one senior, Bella Iasconi, actually. So basically everyone, which is awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, cool.
Back to back.
Just a quick tidbit, a quick story about Bella Iasconi, just to embarrass her a little
I
bit.
think Bella should come.
Bella, you want to come down for this?
Come on.
Our senior,
Oh, star.
senior state champion.
So Bella has joined us for the Captain's Council throughout the year, and it's the middle of January, and it's just a random school day, and she stops me in the hallway with a straight face and says, "Mr. Ingram, I just want you to know we're winning a state championship this year. You've been warned." And then she walked away. It was so nice to see because she was so confident, and she talked about it after with me about how much work that she put in and how much she cared about the team, her coach, and everybody involved. And it was really nice to see that kind of mindset of, this is something that we're capable of doing. We're going to do it. So it was really, really nice to see. And any reason to bring Bella up here is a good reason.
Fantastic.
I have can I
Yeah,
go?
of
I have a
course
couple
you
of
can.
things. So
Yeah.
one, to our state champs and to our other athletes who are here tonight to be honored. We are so grateful for all the hard work that you put in and for making Wilmington just really highlighted. I mean, we all know how wonderful it is, and we know how well our high school, but then to have these state championships or to have these record breakers, I think really puts us kind of in a new space. And so I know that that takes time and dedication and hours and hours and hours. I always say, any sport we play, the coaches and the hours that they spend in some of these gyms and space is truly unbelievable. Until you've been there as a parent, I don't think you really understand like the amount of dedication that our coaches have, and then of course our athletes and our families. I mean, just weekends on end. I mean, and the drives and all that. So to you, thank you for building this wonderful team and for helping us to stand out a little bit. And to our athletes, thank you for making all the young ones want to come here because they know that something really special exists here. For your time and your energy, thank you for doing that. And parents, my goodness, thank you so much. So I would love, after everyone else has a chance to say something, if we could get all the cheerleaders, just so we could take a really big group pic. I think that'd be great.
I think that's a great idea. Absolutely. Mr. Rexo.
Scott Bella, what are your plans for next year?
I'm going to go to Middlesex for a year or two, and then I'm going to transfer somewhere, maybe cheer. We'll see.
All right, and I also wanted to ask, is everyone else confident, along with the coach, that you're going to be here next year? Woo. Put this on an agenda now for next year. We'll mark it down for spring 2026. We'll see you back here.
Awesome.
That's great. Congratulations. Other questions? Nope. All right, you want to take a quick break, do a group photo?
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right, everyone on.
Come on down.
So actually, if you could, just right behind, and then we could always go in the hallway too.
You hold the.
Perfect.
That is perfect. Screen on.
You can move that microphone back out of the way if you need to.
Oh, yeah.
Lift it to
You want us to
to the higher riser.
Use Dennis as the middle ground and sort of, there we go. Yes.
How's the lighting, Mrs. King? You can come closer.
Build a pyramid.
We need Shiv down here.
Go ahead. No, it's fine. I'll get out of the way.
We know. This is perfect. I think we'll also need to do one out in the hallway if that's okay, just because the light is.
Perfect. Parents, come on.
Wait.
Okay.
Do we need to, Mr. Chair, do we need to move to recess or no?
Can we just take a quick photo without taking a recess?
Yeah, I think we can.
Fine.
Okay.
Fine.
I mean, we might vote on a few things while you're out.
No, don't vote on anything yet. All right, we're just gonna go into the hallway and do another photo if that's okay. But before they go, I think we have such a nice crowd tonight. Thank you, well done. Ashvin and Ava too would be great if we could get a picture in the hall. Thank you so much.
We'll resume our regular business.
It's usually not like this much celebration. Usually we start off with stuff like this, and then it gets more serious.
Mr. Rags, you're throwing the gauntlet down yourself. You know, like they got to come back here in a year.
They seemed confident. If they said, no, we're not so sure.
I know, right? Yeah.
They said, no, we're not so sure.
Right. It's that elite mentality for another title.
We'll be back on this podium next year.
Two girls. I have a fourth grader up in North, and then a seventh grader in middle school.
Careful, because I don't know if these are off.
One switch?
We're almost done with our reception.
No, 10. Just a thought. 10 before 9. Just an idea.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
He's here on my side of town.
Yeah.
I understand your sort of rationale.
Okay, whatever works.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I live near, I live on like a little side street near McCarran's off of Wood Street.
Oh, sir.
Oh, okay.
Did we lose Mr. Ingram is coming back and finishing his presentation.
Very good.
Here he is. We don't want to hold you up, so Dr. Bryson will be back in a second, but if you want to keep going.
Let's keep going?
You
Okay.
feel free to do so.
I got your permission, I just want that on record in case.
Good.
All right, so now we're just going to go through the individual teams and a recap of what their seasons. You'll see some of the pictures that we have of with the victory chain and the nice Wildcat backdrop. Boys indoor track, Coach Mike Kinney, their regular season was 2-3. They had all-stars. Ashvin Baker, who was down here, he was an all-star and MVP. Dean Champa in the 1 mile and Martin Philisan in the long jump. And the girls had a little bit of fun with the victory chain. Head coach Joe Patrone, they had a great season, 4-1. They were all-stars with Lexi LeBlanc in the 55, Isabel Carrier in the 300, and they had a great 4x200 relay team, which is pictured here of Kaylee Walker, Kate McDonald, Isabel Carrier, Lexi LeBlanc. All-stars at large were Kate McDonald and Abby Howie. Boys basketball, first-year head coach with us, Anthony Faraday, 12-8 record. That was the most wins that the boys basketball team has had since 2011. 18th in Division III. A very exciting year. All-stars for them were Aiden Balter, Ryan Gray, and Connor Sullivan. Girls basketball, Ava Boudreau was just here. She was an all-star, along with Allie Del Genio, head coach Chris Fasori. Their record was 4-16. They still made the tournament, and they actually hosted a game in the tournament. It was a great night down here. They ended up losing at Pittsfield. It was quite the ride, quite the ride, but they had a nice season nonetheless. Boys hockey, head coach Steve Scanlon, regular season 4-16. They ended up 8th in Division IV. That's all with the power rankings and being a smaller school in a larger league. Boys hockey is very, very, very good in Middlesex. So our team accumulates points almost just by stepping onto the ice. They won one tournament game and then they lost to North Reading, and their all-star was Colin Allard. Girls hockey, we co-op with Stoneham, and Stoneham is the host school. The Wilmington head coach is Taylor Bergstrom. Their regular season record was 7-11-2. They had an all-conference player from Wilmington. She was all-star and all-conference, Vivian Savoy. Gymnastics, we co-op with Bedford. This year, there was no all-stars from the Wilmington side. They had a 4-4 season, and they look to be back next year. They're returning a lot of Wilmington girls. Our swim team co-ops with North Reading, and they compete in the Cape Ann League. We got a nice list here of all-stars. Spencer Bagtaz, Cole Falk, Declan Savage. They were on the relay team. Cole Falk had a couple of individual outstanding performances in the 100 butterfly and the 200 freestyle. And we just found out that Spencer Bagtaz is planning on swimming in college, so we'll have a signing day for him next week. Very exciting. And our wrestling team here with the victory chain, they had an all-star and all-conference, Mohammed Saeed, and he came in second in the state at the 190-pound division. So here's a collage of just some pictures that those great kids that I talked to you about take. Some of them are great pictures. Some of them are serious. It helps us so much, so we just throw out a little collage here for you. And a shameless plug, if you don't already have it, download the Wilmington Athletic app. We're closing in on 1,200 subscribers, news, updates, information, anything that you like. Questions?
I'm going to go first and agree with the plug on the app. I downloaded it when you were here the last time, and it's great getting the little updates about victories and things. So I second your notion. Everybody should download it. So
I was able to actually, while waiting to get on, send out a couple games went final, and I was able to send out the notification. So it's made life easy for us.
It's been great, honestly. Mr. Turner.
Thank you for all of it. I do especially appreciate the co-op element of it. It gives our students so many more opportunities than if we didn't have those co-op opportunities. So it's a fantastic part of our athletics program, and I really appreciate that. The extra time and effort that goes in organizing those I feel is really worth it, to giving those wider opportunities for the students. So thank you for all your effort in that, and it's fantastic to see that portion of it.
Thank you.
Dr. Bryson?
Thank you. Well, we look forward to the spring update. And
Spring update, pencil me in.
Yeah, we're excited.
We've,
It's
we've already
great.
penciled in the cheerleaders for next year, so.
So good.
It's great, lots of success. It's great, and it's wonderful. We have a lot of, how many students right now are participating in spring sports?
We're at 285.
That's great.
Which is up from last year, and last year we had a couple 8th grade waivers, so we're considerably up from last year, which is fantastic.
Wonderful. You know how I feel, so I won't, it's a long night, so, but thank you for everything.
Thank you.
We are really appreciative.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks,
Dennis.
Thank you. Excuse me. All right, that brings us to our consent agenda. We have approval of minutes, March 26, 2025, April 8th, 2025, April 9th, 2025, and April 10th, 2025. Is there a motion? Dr. Bryson, second. Mr. Ragsdale, all those in favor?
I think I have to abstain because I wasn't at the first one there, March 26th.
Okay, so
Abstain.
5 in favor, 2 abstentions. We have acceptance of donation, the Woburn Street Health and Wellness Support, $3,000. Is there a motion? Dr. Bryson, second. Mr. Turner, do you have a question?
I was just going to say, sorry.
Please?
This is fantastic. I really appreciate the effort that went into getting this and the event itself, so thank you very much for all the time in this.
Yeah, it was a great event too, so it was very exciting.
Amazing.
We were very fortunate that we had a parent, is the one who nominated us.
That's awesome.
So
That's
we were
fantastic.
chosen, so it was nice.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Dr. McCauley?
Yeah, just a quick question too. Do you have any initial thoughts on what the school may do with that donation?
Please?
Yeah, so it's for health and wellness, so, I do know that we don't need any PE equipment right now, so we're looking towards more, something for social emotional or to support, bullying within the school, so I know, I've been working really closely with my school council on things that we need, and some parents have, expressed the interest or in more social emotional needs or, bullying prevention, so trying to look at those avenues right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. We have warrants, grants 30 through 33, revolving 55 through 62, local 85 through 92, food service 55 through 63, circuit breaker 23 through 26, capital 07, special education 52 through 58, payroll 4/9/2025 and 4/23/2025. Is there a motion? Mr. Ragsdale, second by Dr. Bryson. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Brandt.
Thank you very much. Good evening. 2 items tonight under the report, and I'll go in order. The first is the last day of school. Seems like a safe point in the school year to be able to put some stakes in the ground around that, and pending anything that is unforeseen, the last day of school for the current 24-25 school year will be Monday, June the 16th. And just as a friendly reminder, as has been the case in the past, that will be an early release day. So again, Monday, June 16th, last day of school. Remind me, the committee votes on that? No, it's not. The second item tonight is a youth risk behavior survey update. And while I'm introducing this, if I could ask Aaron, Becky, and Christine, please to kindly come down to join. There is a memo in the packet that accompanies this, and so I certainly just highlight some of the salient pieces as this, and then I've asked Ms. Dunham, Erin Dunham, who's our interim coordinator of social emotional health, Becky Brown and Christine Murray to be here as well too, as they're integral partners in this work. I think it's first context setting. I think it's important to bring to the foreground that what I have come to learn over the last 7 years is the Wilmington Public Schools has long been committed to working collaboratively to promote and support student health and well-being, both within the classroom setting as well as within our broader school and district community. I think that you can look not very far and wide to recognize that through our current strategic plan and that is strategic objective number 2, caring and safe for all, which underscores, I think, our commitment as an educational community. For several years now, in fact, going back to 10 years or so, the Wilmington Public Schools has been committed to gathering data and information from our students that, in collaboration with surrounding communities, helps drive our planning at the local and district level. In 2015, as I've come to learn, that was before my time here, but doing a little bit of digging. In 2015 was the first year that the district participated in the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, or YRBS, although by a different consultancy group than the current one that's in place. The purpose sort of tonight's discussion is to provide an opportunity to, as we have done in the past, update you as a school committee on the YRBS survey. I think there's some key things to point out before opening up for comments or questions from the committee. As pointed out in the memo, YRBS, originally developed by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and its primary goal is to monitor health-related behaviors and experiences among young adolescents that may lead to serious health challenges. The survey, as I've come to learn, was developed in 1990 and is considered the primary source for comprehensive data among school-age youth, not just, of course, here in Wilmington, but in fact nationally. The district, well, I can't speak to the specifics back in 2015, certainly during my time here, I think it's important to point out, first off, that this is a voluntary effort that the Wilmington Public Schools has collaborated with members of the Middlesex League. The Middlesex League, for those that might not be aware, is a collection of 12 nearby school districts, athletics, but other endeavors as well, too. And that partnership goes back at least to 2019, I think 2017, in fact. I think the ultimate genesis of that partnership was to bring to the fore similar geographical districts and thus school-age children to gather data that would help inform our programming and educational experiences. So YRBS here in Wilmington, back to 2015, the survey, I think is important to point out, first off, is designed by healthcare professionals and experts in the field, and so it is rooted in research. That's number one. Number two, this is a voluntary survey, of which since its inception in 2015, the understanding that I have, but certainly over the last few administrations of the survey, very much supports opt-out of students and families who might not wish to participate. This is a voluntary effort of these districts, these participating districts. It's our understanding that this year, of 12 Middlesex League school districts, 10 participated in and joined in the collaboration for the YRBS. That's the understanding that we have here. The process for which Becky, very collaborative effort with these other districts. These districts include Burlington, Watertown, Woburn, Wakefield, Winchester, Arlington, Stoneham, Belmont, and Melrose. In there, but surrounding districts. And as has been in the case in the past, this collaboration begins with bringing together those members of a consultancy team, those experts in the healthcare field, with representatives from the school district. And there's a close collaboration to reviewing the survey and identifying what that survey will look like in its administration. I'll pause there if I may have missed anything that you think is important for context setting, Christine, Aaron, or Becky. I cover most of everything? Okay, all right. As mentioned, this is here, as it has been here in the past. We have administered the survey every 2 years. And we have, it is discussed through the Wellness Committee, which we have in place, presented here to the school committee, and so it's here as an update for you, and certainly an opportunity for questions that you as a committee may have for us. Okay.
Thank you. do you guys want to say anything, or is it more just here to answer questions?
Answer questions of the school committee members.
Okay. So because I know we have some folks here who are, I'm assuming, are interested in this topic. We'll discuss any questions, comments the committee has, and then let folks make public comments. And then if there's a recommendation for a vote, we'll come back to that after. So I want to do public comment sort of between the committee and the vote, okay? Okay. Questions, comments?
What vote would there be?
If the committee wants to recommend moving forward with the survey, shelving the survey, changing the survey, I think it would make sense to have a formal motion and a vote on that. So, Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a question and then a comment. So I'm going to ask these folks. So I know I've gotten this information from Dr. Brandt already, but did anyone in Wilmington request to opt out and then was not given, their child was then not opted out? To your knowledge, did that occur?
We didn't. We put the, we were asked to put the survey that would have happened on April 7th on hold.
Okay.
We do have the opt-outs, and historically, we have never had an issue with parents requesting opt-outs. The students themselves can opt out. They can opt out of the entire survey. They can, out of the questions, they can pass over a question.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to expand. First of all, I want to say thank you because it's so critical that the parents' right to opt their child out of something. First of all, it's the law, and second of all, you know, it's about respect. I think for a parent and how they're raising their child. I will expand upon. You know, for me, the question that has driven so much of the controversy is way out of bounds. The definition of intercourse as described cannot be included in a survey with which we move forward if we decide to go forward with a survey. That being said, again, speaking entirely for myself, I would be in favor of taking out that definition that is so graphic and moving forward with the rest of the survey, because there are questions in here. For example, have you ever been bullied because of the religion with which you identify? So if you were like a devout Christian, a devout Muslim, devout Jew, have you ever been bullied? If we have an epidemic of bullying of a certain group of religious students, we need to know that. Folks in the audience here tonight, folks in our town can hold us accountable with the data that we report here. If we have a spike in bullying or in like online bullying or in any kind of mistreatment, bullying for students with special education needs is in here in this survey. When we have less data, we can't make as great informed decisions as we normally otherwise would be able to. You know, again, this is the kind of transparency that lets the public hold the school committee accountable. Because otherwise, like, what kind of report card can we really give? We have the graduation rates, we have dropout rates, we have all kinds of numbers, but this is, I used to be a reporter. I used to cover school committees. Without this, like, this data would help a reporter say they're not meeting their obligations to protect students. So, you know, in my opinion, I do think that the rest of the survey here has a role for us to play. I know we're going to talk about the rest of it in terms of, you know, what results are we seeing from this data in terms of how we are changing our curriculum, how we're delivering for student safety and health, right? So in my current view, we should take that definition out in question 65. You know, I think in 2019 and 2021, we did this survey and it just said, have you ever had sexual intercourse? I would be comfortable, again, just me, not speaking for the rest of you, going back to that question without this really graphic description that I think, you know, I think most parents probably look at that and go, whoa, what the heck's going on there? Sidebar, and I know I'm talking a lot, I'm sorry, I'll be done in a second. I do want this to spark a broader conversation about our opt-out process to make sure that we never, ever get close to what happened in Burlington, right? Like we should have an inquest to get ahead of a possible mistake. Because I think people at that meeting said things like, you know, once a child who's been raised in a certain way sees this stuff for the first time, the government is telling them this stuff for the first time. Like, if that's their home view that they don't want the government to be doing that, then that kind of slight error can have a big impact. Putting that aside then, I do also think then this should also, in the same vein, prompt us to take a broader look at our sex ed curriculum writ large. Is that appropriate? Is it medically and scientifically appropriate? Because I do want it to be scientifically appropriate, medically appropriate, and age appropriate, right? Because that's part of public health. That's part of our commitment to ensuring that students are safe and healthy. So that's my preference. I'm curious to see what the rest of the committee thinks, but I would love to take that really egregious question out and then just like keep getting the good data that we've had here. So,
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Mr. Turner.
No, thank you,
Excuse me.
and thank you for your comments, and thank you all very much for being here tonight. This is one of those topics that's not a yes/no topic. It's a complex topic, and we need to really think carefully about it all. Part of where I come from also is knowing the history of this. I know as a high school student in the 1990 timeframe, because I am that old, I took this survey myself. Not this version of the survey, but a form of the survey. It came out of Nancy Reagan and Just Say No. It came out of people being concerned about teen pregnancy, people being concerned about drug use in the 80s and 90s coming out of the 60s and 70s. So this is not new. This is a very well-established sort of topic of having a good view of where your students are. So you can look out for trends that are really problematic. I do think there's two pieces of the survey that I think I would really appreciate us to revisit. When you ask a question where one of the options is 0, never done, versus a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, having that start with a yes/no question, and then if the child answers yes, then you ask how many, how often type questions. Because I think starting with a question that says 0, never versus many times, students who haven't thought of doing the thing, seeing the question with an option for many, may have them question themselves, well, if some of my classmates have tried this many times, why haven't I? So starting with yes, no, with the hidden questions the way the survey is built, could provide all the information we need in a way that sometimes kids take peer pressure from weird places. And so if we can be a little bit more careful with the survey construction, I like the fact that it's got hidden questions. That's the right way to do it. But I think we can enhance that and request that they enhance the way that survey is built. I do think some of the language is concerning. I do trust medical experts and counseling experts on exactly the words used, but that would be a nested question. And so depending on how they view it should be phrased, I would be okay with a range of answers, but it really does depend. I don't have any particular comfort with the language as it's written today, but it may not be appropriate to be quite so simplistic as it was before. So I defer somewhat to the experts on that topic. And then I do think there are a couple places where we could go a little further. It does talk about bullying as being the recipient of being bullied. It doesn't ask a question about, have you bullied? And that might be an opportunity to get an honest answer from kids in the safety of an anonymous survey, to have some kids come to that conclusion. And even seeing the question can prompt them to think about their behavior towards their fellow classmates. And so sometimes asking those types of questions can be helpful. And similarly, we ask questions about, have you been a victim of sexual violence? We could ask the same question the other way too. Have you perpetrated sexual violence? And again, getting the information, we may not get great answers because some kids may simply hide, that would be normal. But if we can trigger them to think about, is what I did appropriate? That's another opportunity the survey could grant the students themselves in self-reflection. So I think there's some questions we could add. I think there's a little bit of formatting we could change. And then potentially some language could be modified. But I think the value of what we get from this type of survey is really important. Fundamentally, we can learn about how our students are, how they're feeling, how they're doing, what risks they encounter. If we see a spike in vaping one year, we know we need to address it, just as examples, and we've done things like that in response to date. So I think the value of the survey is really, really clear. But, as I said at the very beginning, it's not a yes-no question. We could do better. I do take it that as a group of schools, we should push very hard for the survey to reflect exactly what we want. And if it's really problematic with JSI, there's other forms of the survey. And if we need to, we should shift forms of the survey to something we're all comfortable with that gets us the information we need so we can do what's best and right for the kids. Thank you.
Please.
Just one quick thing that I apologize for not saying at the outset, and for those members who are maybe new around the table and haven't been here during the last time that this was administered. One of the things that comes with this is that reporting out. And that the results from, whether it's JSI or anybody else, that data is compiled and then reported out based upon those students that took the test. So you can see, so A, it's reported back publicly. It's not one of those situations where data is captured and it goes away and disappears and you sort of never wonder what the results are. There's always been a commitment to report those out, and in comparison to the geographical, their counterparts, their peers nearby. So I should have said that at the outset.
Thank you. Dr. McCauley.
Thanks. So I have a few questions, but first I just want to just say I agree with Mr. Golden over there about the opt-out, that I'm glad we have it, and we have to make sure that that opt-out is always honored as well too, because what happened in Burlington was not great. So just want to take a step back with this survey, right? I'm sure you heard with some of my colleagues' comments, there has been some community concern about the language and everything like that. And also I think just not even the language, but also the types of questions being asked. And I really kind of want to understand a little bit more is, from the district's perspective, understood that this collects all this data, but what in the past has the district done with this data that's helped the students? Like, I kind of want to understand, like, we get this data, but then what is it being used for, right?
Can we respond?
Absolutely. Yes, please.
So we have used the data. One of the members, like, we have looked at our vaping data, and we were like, oh, we've got to do something. Like, so we have provided that information back to our teachers, and we have brought in programs into the district. I'll just speak for myself, what was most striking to me in the data from 23 was the issues around our LGBTQ population and how they feel in the school setting around safety and being bullied and that. When we do professional development in the beginning of the start of school, we have brought in speakers from the DESE SAFE program to help our teachers have more skills and knowledge on how to deal with our students and how to support them. So we do look at the data critically, and when there are spikes, especially if we look at Wilmington data and then we look at Middlesex and we see, whoa, what's going on, we do meet and decide how do we need to put additional resources into programs to help support whatever we're seeing in the spikes, whether it's vaping or alcohol use or whatever. The other thing I would like to address to Mr. Golden is our sex education program follows the DESE curriculum. And fortunately, we do have brand new health and PE curriculum that the health and PE teachers have worked really closely with, along with Christine Elliott and Support Time and CIT, to get the new curriculum in place across the entire grade levels.
Thanks.
Can I ask my
Yep, keep
follow-ups?
going.
All right, great. So thank you. So it definitely makes sense to me that, if we see kind of upticks in, let's say, self-reported drug use, that then the school is going to put in some programs about addressing that.
Right,
If
so
I
we would
understand
go
correctly.
back to our health teacher in the middle school and say, this is what our students are self-reporting out. We've got to go back and readdress this with our students.
Yeah.
Or students are understanding the seriousness of vaping,
Yeah. Okay.
our vaping diversion program came out of the vaping data.
Makes sense. All right. And then the other thing I want to understand too is, at least the feedback I've been hearing and just kind of my thoughts, I came in when I saw the results, but I didn't know the survey was going on when I first came here. I want to understand the rationale behind asking middle school students all these questions. From what I'm hearing, talking with some other constituents and stuff, there's a feeling okay, high school students, they kind of know all this, they kind of hear this every day and all that, but a lot of the concerns around that middle school population. So what I really want to understand is what's the rationale behind asking the middle school the same questions as the high schoolers?
So if I could just add, our sixth grade population do not answer the sexual behavior questions. That's a decision that was made in prior survey administrations. And I think it's important to note that for middle schoolers, the survey is not just a collection of sexual behavior questions, but it's questions about nutrition, it's questions about, healthy sleep habits, bullying. I mean, there's a variety of information, even including mental health, is extremely important. information to gain from all of our middle school students.
Okay. Yeah, a little more specifically, it was just kind of, and I think it was for both cuts across, but the more concern I heard on the middle school side was forget about sexual health, but more drug use. Like a lot of the drugs were kind of listed out.
Mhm.
And that was a little jarring because a lot of students may not even know what these are and everything. So there was some concern from parents about that.
Right.
So I
the
was just wondering if you could answer
the
that.
definitions that are provided
Yeah.
are designed to make sure that students know the questions that they're answering, and so that they can provide as accurate of a response as possible.
Sure.
So I understand that some of the terms, for some students, might be unfamiliar, but for some, that might not be the case. And so really making sure that they're answering the question with as much sort of fidelity as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because if you just say, hey, have you done drugs? What does that even mean, right? Yeah.
And research shows that students who are not participating in risky behaviors, when they see them in a survey, it does not encourage them to go out and try the behavior.
And then one final.
Keep going, yep.
So just getting back to language, and I think you heard a little bit of the feedback from Mr. Golden and everything. And beyond even that one question, I did notice a lot of the other questions had a lot of extra detail in it. I go back to drugs. I think there was something also about teen pregnancy as well too, and also like what kinds of other instruments you use, like if you're having sex or anything like that as well. I was just wondering like where the language came from and why does it need to be so specific? Like why can't it be more general, and can we still get the same answer we need to kind of influence policy? You know what I mean?
So the league had provided, the Middlesex League had provided feedback to JSI following the 2023 survey, saying that we really did need to expand upon the sexual behavior definition to ensure that we were as inclusive as possible for all of our students taking the survey. So there is additional language and in the definition where JSI was able to pull from reputable sources to really, create a definition that would feel as inclusive as possible for all students involved.
Okay. So what I don't understand though is if you're trying to be inclusive about it, but we're getting into, borderline graphic detail on some things, it's like, why did we need all that information in there, right? That was kind of more my question, right?
I think the concern was that we wanted students to understand the question so they could accurately answer the question.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Izzo.
So we've been doing this for a while. I've been either attending school committee meetings or on the school committee, I think ever since we started participating in the YRBS. And every time that we've looked at the results, they've always been really eye-opening. And sometimes they're uncomfortable, but they're also, broadly speaking, something that I don't think we want to avert our eyes from. And so, broadly speaking, I think that this information is important and valuable. But a lot, of course, also depends on the details as we're getting into. I think that what we're hearing is some specific concerns about specific things, and not necessarily concerned with the broad issue here. It's also important to, I think, recognize that the information that we get from this is, even though it's administered in school, these questions are not specific to school. So they don't ask about whether you have ever drank alcohol in school, or, and so forth. Like, these are broad questions, and so they tell us information about Wilmington as a community, and not just as Wilmington as a school system. Now, we're sort of the organization that has, outside of families, that has the most, interest in this data and the most ability to kind of use it. But I think that's also an important bit of context to think about, that this is not, the data we get, even though it's somewhat disturbing, is not, and I've never looked at it as well, how are the schools doing versus are we doing well, are we doing not? These are really community issues, because undoubtedly much of the behavior that we see in these survey results is happening outside of school and has nothing to do with school at all. Again, that's just the place where the questions are asked. I think that, broadly speaking, I appreciate the value of having consistent longitudinal data And so I know every year when we sort of talk about changing questions, we get a little bit of pushback, especially from the JSI side of, oh, you really don't want to change the questions, because then it's less comparable to the other districts and a little less comparable to our own historical results. And I take that point, but I think we give too much deference to that. I think that we should be more willing to craft the questions that we think are appropriate and best serve our interests, even with the trade-off that there will be some potential difficulties in maybe an interpretation in some areas when we're thinking comparably. So I would like to see us be more willing to go our own way if we feel that that's appropriate on individual questions and for our own students and needs. The other aspect, and this kind of comes back to the issue of opt-outs, is that I do think, again, that it is very important that not just that we have opt-outs. So this is, I mean, again, we all agree, we have to have the opt-out. Like, we are compelled, legally required to have it be an opt-out at the student level and at the parent level. But I think we need to reduce some of the friction for that. Two things that I would point out is that in the emails that went out at the end of March about the surveys, that it's I think the high school survey, there was a form which you were supposed to sign, and then it just said, I think, return to Mr. Miranda. But it didn't really say how to return it. It wasn't clear, like, do you need to sign a hard copy? Do you send that in with your student? Are you supposed to scan and email? Like, there was just kind of no clarity around that. And then a little bit similar in the middle school. Again, there's a form that you sign, and even the way that it was phrased, it was, rather than sort of a neutral, like, I choose for my student not to participate, it really said, like, something about, like, I do not allow my student, or my student is forbidden to. There was something a little bit negative about the language as well. And again, just said return to the high school principal, but didn't really explain in what particular way you were supposed to do that. And just something even as simple as email the principal with this subject line if you want to opt your student out. We'll just make that a lot simpler. And then the other piece of it is I think it was way too hard to actually find the questions. Because the email that came out at the end of March simply said the question, and there were other things attached to it. So there was good information, and so I'm not saying that we were trying to, like, hide things or anything. I think we're being, transparent. There are a bunch of documents about a fact sheet and the opt-out form and so forth, but it did just say the questions are available on our website. No link to where you'll find those questions, and they were hard to find. I just gave myself the challenge. All right, where would I go? Where would you go to, find this? And, so I go to health services. Nope, no, I don't see anything down here in health services. What about if I just do a search? I'll just go up to the search box, YRBS. Nope, can't really get to them that way. Finally, it turns out that you have to go to student support services and then choose from there behavioral, social, emotional health. And then you'll finally find YRBS in the survey questions. When all it would have taken is just a single link. Click this link here in order to view the questions in that email. So I would like to see us make that opt-out process more transparent by directly linking to the questions, so it is just really easy for anyone getting that email to immediately look at them, and then make that opt-out process, again, have a little bit less friction. One last thing I want to mention is that one thing that I think is a big improvement of how we've posted the questions is a few cycles ago, the hidden logic of those optional questions was not clear. It's like every question was just listed out as if every student is going to get every question. And one thing that I want to make sure we keep doing is, again, showing that logic of you only get these follow-up questions if you answer affirmatively to that first yes/no question.
Quick clarification on that. Sorry, because it's directly relevant to that point. There are places where it said this question, then hidden question, and it didn't note how many down were hidden with the hidden question logic. And so there are places where the next one down was obviously hidden. And if you read it, you could probably guess if the second one down was also hidden, but there was a point where it became a general question again. And so if you could maybe box around if there's more than one question hidden, for the parents, that would make it much clearer to that exact point. It is a definite improvement from the past where they were just listed in sequence, but it was sometimes hard to tell. You could logic it out, but that took a second read on some of the questions to know whether they were logicked out. And so I think that, sorry.
And if I could just finish up here, but thank you for jumping in, Stephen, there. And so I recognize again that, again, in the world of trade-offs, that the easier you make it to opt out, the more opt-outs there will be, and our data is less useful the fewer students take the survey. And so that's just something that we again have to acknowledge, that the survey is valuable when as many students as possible take it. But at the same time, people need to have a real transparent option of whether this is something they think is best. Because I'll say that there was one year in particular in which I opted at least one of my kids out of it. And again, it was just because of like the nature of the language of the questions, where she was at that time. That was my judgment, that even though in all the other years I had had everyone take it, but that one year with that one child, I just said, I don't think I'm comfortable with that. And I think that other parents and all parents need to be able to do that as they see correctly.
Thank you.
I just want to add one thing and thank Mr. Ragsdale, because, again, adding that, reducing friction for the opt-out process is going to be really critical, because I think, this summer, most folks have not heard about this, but the Supreme Court, National Supreme Court, is looking at a case that would kind of decide if mention of LGBTQ people, content, et cetera, constitutes something that should be opt-outable for parents. Now, the scope of that decision, what the decision will be, has not come down yet. But I would anticipate that there is a scenario where we're getting a significantly increased number of opt-out requests by the start of the fall. And so that's why I think we really need to make sure that the system that is, there is a system in place to make opt-outs straightforward, not just for parents, but also for the district. Putting aside whether I think it's a good judgment call from the Supreme Court. I don't. I think I would think it'd be a horrible thing if they did it, but they're probably going to. But we need to have a streamlined opt-out setup. I think we need to put it in a different place on the website. I think it should be more front and center, because it's going to need to be. So, sorry to speak twice.
Thank you. Just look.
I appreciate the thoughtful discussion and insight. I'm listening carefully. And one thing I'm wondering is if it's possible to have an option for parents to opt out of a particular section without the whole survey, because it seems like there's a lot of really helpful, but parents might have a concern about a particular topic. So it may be very complicated, but I'm wondering about that as an option.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can certainly inquire. That's a good point. I can certainly inquire. I'm not sure how that would go unless the student themselves knew what sections or modules to omit, but I can certainly inquire, absolutely. With regard to the opt-outs, I will say, and I appreciate the feedback around making it a little bit more user-friendly, and I've taken all sort of those notes and considerations. My information is detailed on all the sort of, any information that went out with regard to the survey. There were plenty of feedback that I received with regard to opt-outs, and really was very thoughtful up until sort of the decision to pause, to make sure that I was cross-referencing with administration, to make sure that we had a true and accurate, opt-out list, because I agree it is something that I take very serious as well. So thank you.
And I think we're comfortable with the process of opt-outs. This survey is not the only survey that parents opt out of. All the mass DPH mandated screenings parents opt out of, so they can opt out of postural screenings, they can opt out their child out of SPERT. So I think that we do take the seriousness of opt-outs.
Dr. Bryson?
Okay,
Yes,
sure.
you can.
So I'm not going to repeat what all of my colleagues have said, because I actually pretty much agree with everything that's been brought up, especially in terms of this one question that I think we're really focused on. And I agree with Mr. Golden that I would only really be comfortable sort of unhitting the pause button if we could go back and remove that. That being said, what I will add to this conversation I think is different is a couple of things in terms of the process of the Wellness Committee, in terms of sort of how this gets talked about, shared, decided upon, what that looks like, but also, when we're getting responses, we're then reaching out to teachers, we're reaching out to, and I know we present the data, but I guess I'm wondering a little bit about the community buy-in, and so thinking about sort of where we are in this particular moment, but I'm wishing that maybe there was a bit more sort of support on both sides. Like, are there people involved in this wellness committee as well? Are there families that can see it, participate in it? Where would they find out about that? Could they have been a part of this conversation at some point? So it sort of feels like, are there avenues for families to provide feedback where they don't feel as though they're not being heard, or that they need to go to Facebook to be heard, right? Like, what is the space for them to have these conversations where they can actually have I always say, like, have a seat at the table. Like, we want to have a seat at the table. What does that look like? So I guess I'm asking about process for that particular piece in terms of how do families engage with the wellness committee? What would that look like for them? And is that possible? And if not, could we add something like that where families could participate? So that's one piece. And then my second question is sort of just so that's part B to that is, when we get the data, we're doing things with the data, right? We're bringing programs in, we're talking about curriculum, we're talking to health teachers, like and I know bits and pieces of that, and I get to sit at this table, so I know probably a bit more than maybe community members, but I'm wondering if we can be a bit more transparent about that in a way that families can access that. So not just in a school committee meeting, right? We noticed our vaping was up, we did this, we've seen our vaping come down. We noticed that unsafe driving was up, we presented this, we've noticed that this year the unsafe driving. I think those sorts of comparisons for families would be really helpful, but also, more importantly, as David said earlier, this stuff is happening outside of school, right? Mm-hmm. And so these conversations, of course, are happening in homes anyway, but if families can also say, oh, I'm noticing that this is an issue. Like I would say to my child, oh, I'm noticing this looks up in our district. Are you seeing that too? Like, have you noticed that? And then your child may say, yeah, I have seen that, or I've noticed that not everyone is doing that anymore. And I think those are really healthy conversations for families to have with their children, but also with people who work in the schools. So I'll stop there because I know that was a lot of stuff, but it's really connected in my head, like community involvement. What does that look like, I guess?
I'm wondering if I can ask just one clarifying question. So when you say omitting, are you talking about omitting a question or a section, or are you talking about omitting a definition? I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Omitting the definition. Okay. Omitting the definition related to the objects that we would use, like that definition piece. Okay. And I'm not sure how everyone around the table feels, but I would imagine that that's sort of the one piece where we're all like, ooh. Mm-hmm. Now, parents will still have the ability to opt out, and they don't want, I'm guessing, Becky, in terms of can we pull out pieces? When surveys are built, I don't think I think they're gonna say no, and then to David's point, well, then maybe we say, well, then we don't wanna go with JS. I mean, like, we'd have to make the wellness committee would have to make those sorts of recommendations, but I think that if you pull pieces out, it does take away from sort of the validity of the survey, is my guess. But
and I think the only other kind of clarification I'd want to provide is not all the content takes place outside of school. Certainly the bullying, nutrition, there are definitely questions that do speak to, a child's experience throughout the day, every day. Yeah. So.
And I think there are core questions from the CDC, like JSI is not creating these questions. They're coming from the CDC, the core questions. I see JSI is more of the collaborating with the districts in the questions, but they're not necessarily creating the questions or taking them from a national database, which Mr. Turner had identified as longstanding, way before we started doing it in 2015.
So as it follows up to one of the things Dr. Bryson said, one of the things when we talk about the value of the survey, and to some of Mr. Ragsdale's points earlier, the value is almost infinite to learn about a spike in alcohol and or unsafe driving off this survey than from the police. And so that's where the fact that the survey covers in-school behavior and general wellness of children, there's a tremendous value to the town. And whether it's alcohol or anything else, when you see unsafe behavior literally on the side of the road, it's too late. This is an opportunity to get really powerful information early, where the schools can have a positive impact on behaviors. And we won't solve every problem, but if we solve some, that's well worth it.
And I know SBIRT is mandated by Mass DPH, and SBIRT is a one-to-one conversation with either one of our school counselors or one of our clinical staff. But I personally feel that the data that we get on this survey around alcohol and drugs, where a student is sitting at their laptop, is more accurate than if I'm answering questions with my school counselor or with a clinician. That's just my opinion. I feel that students would be more honest. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
Sure. Dr. McCauley?
Yeah, just kind of want to follow up on that comment Dr. Turner, I'm sorry, Mr. Turner had, and then direct it towards the group here. So we're kind of getting this data, and it's anonymized, right? And I'm kind of curious is we have another survey we do, which signs of suicide, right? And that's targeted, so you can really find the students that are really struggling. What I'm struggling with here is we're doing this blanket-wide survey here, and there's some kids that could be struggling, right? And we're never going to know who they are, right? So I'm wondering if this is just the right survey to even do. If our goal here is to really find some of these kids and then get the parents involved and everything like that to really help them out, would it be better to have it more targeted and then we actually know who they are?
I think this survey is not to target specific students, but to look at district-wide and look at what the trends are, even going from middle school to high school, and then to say, what does Wilmington look like in comparison to Watertown? Or, you know, are our vaping incidents much higher than Melrose? Like, to be able to like step back and look at our curriculum and say, oh, like, our curriculum isn't as focused on vaping or alcohol use or safe driving or texting, like all the things that's in the survey.
And I will.
To what Mr. Ragsdale was saying, is this is one data piece. It's a community awareness, but we do have also other surveys in district that we look at individual data, whether it's through Panorama, whether it's through our signs of suicide, to really target some interventions for those students that are struggling. So I would say this is more, you know, one global survey to provide community awareness, school-based awareness, but also having those other surveys in place to be able to really, just like as we would for academic supports, really look at our social emotional supports for students.
Can you just sort of briefly detail for me the age range? Is it a slightly different survey for high school than middle school? Is it actually your age? How does that work?
So the survey for grades 6 through 12 is essentially the same, with the exception of sixth graders are not receiving that sexual behavior module.
So sixth grade is the outlier, essentially. Okay. So, thank you. And then, I think, I just want to, one of the comments we made was that, sort of around the opt-out process, and that, you know, I think Dr. Brand, you said or alluded to the fact that opt-outs that we saw for this one were more or less in line for what we've seen in previous years. But I want to make sure that, excuse me, we're making the opt-out process, maybe David, it was you that said this, easier and more approachable for parents. Like, is one email a few weeks before the survey comes out sufficient, right? I mean, I know, we know these things are coming. We're, you know, in this committee, but like, if you're a parent and you get 200 emails a day, you may not necessarily see the one outreach that we do as a district. And so I just want to make sure that we're giving folks the information and the access to these things that they need, that we should be. So, yeah. Okay, Dr. Brand.
I guess just a few concluding thoughts, and thank you for your collective thoughts. I think this is a pretty complex issue. Just to reiterate a few things, the district's participation in YRBS is not driven by policy. It's not an item in the strategic plan. It doesn't and hasn't appeared before this committee for your your vote of approval. But it is certainly one of those things where very much I think it's important to get a will or sense of the committee because I think it's fair to say that most anything we would want to be doing as an organization would want to have the support of you as the governing body. We proceeded as a district for many years behind us now with the belief that there is an expectation that we are trying to take a look at the whole child. And we try and do that in a number of different ways. And clearly, more recently, there's been some attention given to this particular survey and more broadly surveys in general. Why are we taking time away from education? Why are we focusing on this? I mean, this is a survey that's administered to students every other year, and it takes approximately 30 to 45 minutes, and it's voluntary for those that participate. We continue to believe, I think, speaking on behalf of the district, not the committee, that if there are trends that are concerning for the health and well-being of students, there's an expectation that the schoolhouse education, rightly or wrongly, is going to try and do something about that to support improvement in the overall health and well-being. And I think at the core, this is what this is about. Are there different ways to do this? Sure. I mentioned earlier that of the 12 districts, 2 did not participate. We know that one of the 2 that didn't participate are opting to administer their own survey. I'm not sure about the 12th. So there are ways to further explore this. I think the suggestion by Dr. Bryson around the Wellness Committee and maybe playing a more integral or closer-knit role to this might make a lot of sense going forward. But ultimately, we want to be operating in a way that's supported by you as a committee, and trying to do what we believe, broadly speaking, the community is looking and hoping for, and that is, if there's concerning behavior amongst our youth that come to our schools each and every day, we're going to do our best to try and improve upon that, while still focusing on teaching and learning.
To that point, one of the other things that I think is really critical about this type of survey, and it's in the broader context of trends, as a district, we have lunch and breakfast available because we know hungry children don't learn well. As a district, we have other social and emotional supports because we know children that are emotionally distressed don't learn well. This sort of survey, if we saw particular things that impacted children's availability to learn in the school, we could address it in a way to try and help the general school population to be available to learning better. And so it is a broad survey, and it does touch on things that do happen in and out of the school, but some of those things, if you're regularly not sleeping well, if you're regularly using harmful substances, impact your ability to learn. And if you're not eating well, it impacts your ability to learn. And so all these things, some of them to some people may seem tangential, but they are very fundamental in many cases to ability to learn, ability to comprehend, and ability to move forward with learning. And so I think there's a very important educational aspect that you touched on, and I wanted to expand on it a little bit as to the value of the survey from a pure teaching and learning perspective, as well as the other social and community values that we've all spoken about. So, thank you.
Just to clarify, so this item here is not, with all respect, not seeking, a vote or your, but we are seeking a sense of how you'd want to proceed. And to end sort of as we begin, this is an optional endeavor. The district does not need to participate in the survey. You've heard, we believe the importance of it, but ultimately, we very much would like to get a sense of the committee about how to proceed. We paused in the administration of the survey because of scheduling conflicts that prevented us to get this before you earlier, hence why we're here tonight.
Dr. McCauley.
Yeah, I think I'm supportive of having the survey go out, but I like the idea that Dr. Bryson posed about kicking it back to the Wellness Committee, and I think reviewing some of the specific language in there on all the questions. I know there was one in particular that got thrown out there, but I think there's a few others too that maybe they went a little bit too far. I also really like the idea of trying to get some community involvement with the Wellness Committee as well too, because we are asking for students to give kind of information that's beyond the knowledge of the school, so that could benefit the whole community. I don't know how the rest of my colleagues feel about that, but I can somehow put together a motion on that or something.
Just for clarification, the Wellness Committee's last meeting for the year is May 16th.
I think
So-
I'd like to, before we do sort of sense of the committee, I think I'd like to give public comment a chance.
Sure.
Just to let the folks who've waited patiently weigh in. And while we're doing that, I don't know if you have it, but is there a last date where we potentially, if we decided to move forward, but changed it, removed questions, whatever the case is, do we know?
We do.
It's my understanding in communicating with JSI that we would have essentially the duration of May
Okay.
if we were to
Okay.
make arrangements for another date.
So even theoretically could get to the wellness committee before the survey goes out?
I would want to make sure that we have sufficient time for
Understand.
families to review any changes as well as to appropriately opt out if that's what they desire.
Sure. Okay.
Can I-
opinion
can I-
before you open it up to public comment. As it stands with you under seventh grader answering some of these questions. Like just as the survey stands, do you want your seventh grader answering these questions? Before you open it to public comment, I'm just.
Wait, hold on, okay.
We're-
Respectfully,
But nobody else did.
respectfully,
Like it's important to understand everyone.
I appreciate that. I want to hear what you have to say before we make a decision.
So you can, okay.
So, you can make a public comment.
Comment time, please remember, there's.
Mr. Ragsdale.
Meetings held. Apologies for interrupting.
Mr. Axel.
I just want to point something out very quickly before we get to public comment, just, which ties into what I was saying before about the transparency. The email that, at the high school level, sort of informing everyone of the result, the subject line of it didn't even mention WYMIT in the survey. It just said, the subject line is message from Office of Student Support Services. And you have to be in the email before you actually see the attachments and the message and what it's about. And just another place where we need to be better about making sure that our communications are clear what this is about. The middle school one just said WMS-YRBS. A little bit better because at least YRBS was in the subject line. But another area where we need to make sure that it's really clear that that's what this email is about. And you should know it from just the subject line and not having to, decide whether it's important to dive into it.
Okay.
I think I gave you the wrong date. I think it's Tuesday, May 13th,
May 13th. Okay. Thank you.
just for correction.
All right, with that, we're going to move to public comment. Anybody who would like to make a comment is more than welcome to do so. We would need your name and address for the record, and we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Do we leave? Did we leave?
I'd like to sit down, actually.
So,
Is this on?
Raise them.
yeah.
You can pull it up, I think.
No, it's all right. My name is Nick Rocco. I live on 102 Woburn Street. Yes, you give us the option to option out of this survey, but the fact that you guys can sit here today and say that is it appropriate to ask a 7th grader if she has anal sex is far inappropriate. I know some of you have brought it up to take the language out, but another question is, you're asking a 7th grader if she sends nude photos, or him, if he sends nude photos. The data that you collect from this survey, okay, how are you gonna stop a 7th grader from using social media or the internet? What course of education are you gonna provide? You're gonna sit these children down in a class and say, okay, guys, here's what's happening. We find that 20% of the students in Wilmington are sending nude photos. How are you gonna stop that based off a survey? Now, I'm 30 years old. I took this survey not too long ago in high school, okay? I didn't tell the truth in this survey. A lot of people and kids, they see this, they say, oh, wait, if I had sex before, I'm gonna put yes. Maybe some of the other kids put yes, so I'm gonna put yes. So you don't even know if the data you're getting from these surveys are 100% accurate. So as I stand here today, I'm sure none of you sitting down are comfortable answering my questions. And one of those questions would be, when is the last time you guys had sex? And if so, what age and grade? When is the last time you guys have used toys? Now, if you don't know what a toy is, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go home and Google it. And what's gonna come up on Google when you search sex toys? Dildos, vibrators, right? Fleshlights for boys. Now, my 6th grader, yes, she might not be taking this, but next year or the year after that, she's supposed to take this. And if she doesn't know what that is, she's gonna Google it, right? So, when is the last time you guys used those? And what age? And what school year have you guys used those? It's uncomfortable that I'm asking you this question, I'm sure, right? So imagine how now a 7th grade girl who doesn't even know what this is. I had to actually Google what a dental dam was, and I'm 30. I didn't even know what it was. You want my 6th grader, almost 7th grader, to know what a dental dam is? No matter how you lay it out in this questionnaire, right? You might add a definition to it so they can understand that, anal sex is sticking a penis in a butt. It's inappropriate, absolutely inappropriate. Nude photos, toys, all of it is inappropriate. The sexual behavior part is meant for home. That's my job as a dad, to teach my kids about safe sex, okay? About condoms, about STDs. I understand there's the health programs, okay, which is great. Stick to certain things. Don't educate my kids about certain things like that needs to happen at home. Because every single one of you here, I guarantee you, will not openly answer my questions till the last time you guys used a condom or a dental dam to present yourself from getting an STD. And I applaud you for standing up and being the first one to say that question is inappropriate. And I know you guys can't pick and choose what you want to take out of it and what you can't take out of it. So take the whole section out. Take the whole thing out. There's no reason to have it. The data, I don't see Wilmington having a high population of teen pregnancy, girls walking around pregnant, getting abortions all the time. I don't see it here. And I don't think that's an issue. So the fact that you want this data, to do what with it? I know you guys say you're gonna teach the kids or educate the kids about this stuff, but if it's not an issue already, why are we trying to make it an issue to try to figure it out? And there's my time, so thank you.
Thank you.
Phil Dubai, Shashi Nav.
Can you clarify?
Shashi Nav, Phil Dubai. I've come to these school meetings for 3 issues. The unnecessary extension of children's wearing masks. I've been here about live shooter locks on outdated schools to keep all our children safe. And now I'm here to talk about these surveys a lot of people are upset about. I do not like coming here and talking, but it's my duty to speak up when I have concerns about the school system, and it's your job to listen to me. Is anything I've brought up to these meetings an issue with any of you? I can understand and comprehend generic emails to all the parents. I do not need personal emails regarding my Facebook comments. Please do not share my personal email with any other resident in this town. If you feel it's an issue is urgent enough to email me, don't CC other residents. Just send separate emails. Now, I do think the email was in good faith, so I'm going to move on and address what I came here for, these surveys. I'm assuming these surveys are for grant money under the disguise that it's a valuable information for some statistic down the road. In reality, the survey isn't bringing any educational value to my kids at the time of the survey, or possibly ever. It was pretty vague on what has been done with this data. What specifically has been done after the buck was passed to the teacher? I'm not letting you sell my child's innocence who doesn't have a cell phone yet and Santa still visits him. He's 10, and this is what I have to worry about next year from this school system. If you want to teach kids about safe sex, give them a sex ed class where the confused kids can have an outlet to ask a question to an actual teacher regarding the topics. This survey has mentally graphic info, and if we need to describe the act of a penis or sex toy going in a vagina or anus butt, then they are probably not doing the act. I understand that the kids click through these questions and they are pushed one way or another from certain questions, but my 11-year-old is one click or lie away from getting to the high school questions. Make separate surveys. It's one survey, correct? And you click the questions and it goes one way or another. Like he said, if they lie, now they're in the high school questions. There are 20 school districts in the county. Why are you saying 12? Is it 20 or 12? Took me 2 seconds to Google how many school districts are in Middlesex County. It's 20. And 10 decided to put the desks, 50%, half said no. 10%, 10 districts let the paper hit the desks. And this is not the same survey from the 90s. The questions are changing. You didn't have Google in the 90s. If you go watch the Burlington School Committee meetings, there were upset parents, teachers, cops, and school board members who all brought up concerns about the survey. So it's not just a couple whiners in Wilmington. I'd like to request a motion to add the Q&A of tonight to be addressed at the next meeting. I request that you watch Burlington's meeting to find out where they went wrong and how they are moving forward to fix it with the policies. Vote to have an opt-in option over an opt-out option. Any opt-in or opt-out option for a survey, it should include the actual survey link so we can view it. I want to have the info to be able to pick my options. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Feeney, I have to fix this because I'm just way too short. Does this work? Is this on?
It's more for WCTV than for the room.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll leave it here. Michelle Feeney, 5 Arlene Ave. So it's interesting, that you use the expression, a seat at the table. Because I'll tell you, for the last 35 or so minutes, I saw all of the same people discussing all of the same opinions. I didn't see one of the folks here reflected in that. I did actually, I said to Mr. Fenley that I wanted to hear everyone's opinion on how they felt about the survey, but I already know it. You've already approved this. The fact that you're sitting here and you didn't come right in and say, we are not doing this anymore. There's a reason why you delayed it from April 7th. If we didn't speak up and we didn't socialize with each other and start talking about this, that would have gone out. So to sit here and discuss it amongst yourselves, there's something wrong there. The fact that I have had to do 3 public records requests, I've spoken to Erin Dunham, and I keep getting obfuscated answers. I'm not getting specifics. The fact that Superintendent Brand said that this predates him, I want answers. This rests with the superintendent. This should have been discussed, and it wasn't. And I'm telling you, there is a subset of Wilmington that is not going to put up with this moving forward. I think that we all feel dismissed. I know you sit here and you're talking about this. You're not getting to the heart of it. We don't want the surveys. I appreciate what Phil DeBuy said. This should be opt-in. And Burlington, just so you know, has filed a PPRA. I think you should familiarize yourself with that. We are done. I hope you enjoy your time there because people are not going to put up with this anymore. We want academics, and these surveys, all these surveys serve to do is get more grant money to hire more SEL folks, and that's all it's doing. It's perpetuating that. We don't need our students doing that. Thank you.
My name is Matt Gillis, Grace Drive, Wilmington. Like these gentlemen that were here before me had spoke about some of the things that I won't speak of because I'm uncomfortable saying some of the things that you guys said. And you 3 ladies in front of me, I'm sure you're just as uncomfortable saying those things that those guys said. That's why you haven't said them tonight. And I was wondering what these things were because my son is not in middle school yet, and I did not get this email. However, my son is in the Shawshane Elementary School, and earlier this year, we had a similar issue with an email that went out with 2nd graders about gender and pronouns and things like that. This is kind of like the same thing that we're doing with kids that are way too young for this information that we're trying to push into their faces. It's a political agenda, in my opinion, and I don't think it has any place in a school system. And if we're going to do this type of stuff in a school system, it should be age appropriate. And from what I'm hearing tonight, this stuff is not age appropriate for our kids in middle school, and that thing that I just talked about in the elementary school with pronouns, they don't even know what that stuff is. Why are we trying to teach them stuff about things that they have no idea and they don't care about? Because we have 1 or 2 people in a district that are trying to force these things down our kids' throats. And I'm kind of upset that there's not more people from Wilmington here, parents, in this crowd tonight, because I can tell you, I'm standing up like these gentlemen are and these young ladies are to say that this community doesn't want this stuff. I grew up here, my parents grew up here, my grandparents grew up here. This is not the type of town that wants this type of stuff in our school system, am I right? 100%. So I don't think that this agenda is appropriate, number one, And I don't think our town, our population here, at least the people that were born and raised here, the generations in the past, would not approve this stuff. And I don't know why you folks that are sitting at the table, if you did in fact, like this young lady had said earlier, approve this before and pushed it off because you had pushback from the people in the community, then shame on you. Because that's not what this town should be about. Education comes first. That other stuff, that's nonsense. I also teach in education at the high school level. And we don't talk about that stuff in my classroom, and most people don't talk about it in the building that we're in. That's private stuff, like that gentleman said, and this gentleman said. You deal with that at home as a parent. Thank you.
Carrie Phillips, Church Street. I'm going to express an unpopular opinion today, at least with the room, but there are a large segment of parents in this town who are fine with this survey. We read the emails. I will concede it would have been nice to have the link like we got in the 4th grade when they had the health trainings in the 4th grade. We got to access the video. It would have been nice ahead of time. It did take some searching, but I found it. I'm an attorney. I work in the law. Words matter. And as uncomfortable as those discussions can be, sexuality and the need to be very factual and explicit about intercourse and sex is very important, because sexual abuse happens for 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 6 boys. And if they are not using the correct words, and intercourse, I lived down south, there were a number of people, children, who didn't think anal sex was intercourse. They were saving themselves for marriage, they were having anal intercourse. Words matter. And being open to the parents, yes. Communicating ahead of time, yes. Let them make that decision. Now, I don't know if it's feasible for this survey period, but one option is reissue the opt-out. Find out how many people would actually opt out if that question is retained in the survey, or if a modified version, because I'd like to be optimistic and think a lot of parents would say, I'm fine with that. I have a 6th grader, he won't answer that question this year, but I am more than happy with it. I know more than a number of parents who are fine with it. So I appreciate the conversation, though. I appreciate you were all, not all of you, but many of you were voted in, and there's a reason for that. I know you represent us. That is the core of democracy. So thank you all for this discussion. And so I just say, please don't be swayed by the vocal minority. They're very vocal, but I've read the community pages, but I do appreciate and understand the concern. I do understand it. But thank you all again. Thank you for listening.
Other comments? Okay. Mr. Turner.
There are 94 questions in the high school survey. There are 83 in the middle school survey, and they ask a wide range of topics that are really important to education. I do have a concern with a question. I would like, my preference would be for us to revisit the way that question is worded and be really thoughtful and careful about what we choose to put in that question. I do think, being, to Mr. Ragsdale's point, very, very clear with the opt-out. If we have the time between now and the end of the year to review the survey and have appropriate time to communicate the opt-out, because of the fact that the amount of amazingly important information across the other questions that we gather across a wide range of topics. I understand that the particular topics around sexual activity are troubling to some, but there is so much other value in the survey that if we can be a little bit more careful with how we proceed with that topic, I strongly support continuing to use the survey, whether we do it this spring, or postpone it to the fall to give proper time. I'd be okay with either scenario. I do think gathering the data in a timely fashion to be comparable is useful, but If it has to be in the fall, okay. If we could get it done in the spring, certainly would be better. But there is so much to the survey, to be very, very clear, so much to the survey that I think is critically important to the health and wellness of our children and their education that I support the survey with small modifications.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify, though, for the administration? So the understanding that I think we have, or I have, is that the Wellness Committee reconvenes to take a look at this survey. Are you, as a committee, looking for that survey to come back here to this committee? Or are you looking just to the Wellness Committee to approve that to go forward? That's number one. Number two, I think I can answer that the opportunity to be a part of the Middlesex survey with an administration in the fall would not be possible because all of the other districts would wrap up. So I just point that out.
To be clear, I would push, to David's point about being pushy about what we need and want, I don't see a problem with comparing data from September, October to data collected in other districts in May. Maybe there is a problem.
We can confirm that. I think we can confirm that.
If we need to,
confident
again,
in that, but
if we could accomplish it in the spring,
Yeah.
preferable. But if we need to, we need to.
To Dr. Brand's point, I would be in favor of us bringing this back from the Wellness Committee to this body to have a final vote with the public here. That would be my preference.
Dr. McCauley?
Agreed with having the Wellness Committee take a look at this, revamp the language. I'd also like the committee or the administration to, which was mentioned, I think, in a lot of comments, reviewing the opt-out procedures and the information sharing, and then also exploring what an opt-in would be as well, too, possibly. Like, how does that look, or is that just going to eliminate all the data from the survey? So I think we should maybe explore that idea a little bit as well.
You want to?
Sorry, I was losing my train of thought there for a second. I would also, I think, like to see the survey come back to us. I am less concerned with being able to compare with other districts. Honestly, I've always found that to be the least helpful and useful part of the data. Like, we sort of get that back and we say, like, oh, look, we're higher than Stoneham here and we're better than Arlington here, and then it's kind of just like, and what, okay, and it's not like we're going to Stoneham or whoever and just saying like, well, what are you doing that's getting you such fantastic results? I mean, it's not that it isn't interesting, and like it's always, you always kind of want to know, well, how are we compared to other people, but I don't know how actionable that is, and I don't think that that's something that we should make as the cornerstone of the process. I also, going back to the opt-out thing, I would want to be really clear and communicate again to the community when it's when this is, you know, if this comes back and we approve it to go forward, to have communication to the community with, again, the sort of the amendments that we've been discussing about, like, you know, direct link to the issue, easy opt-out procedure, and I think maybe even just a listing of the different sections of the survey, because I think it's like, unless you really dig in, you just kind of don't know. And so maybe just like a listing of the different pieces of this survey that, you know, like clarifying that, you know, it's going to ask about bullying behavior, and it's going to ask about, you know, sexual behavior and alcohol and tobacco use and others, nutrition and other behavior, driving and so forth. They really just listing it out. I think that the way forward is transparency. I think this is, you know, again, so like as Mr. Turner was saying, there is so much important, useful data in here, but that it really is important that people know exactly what is, you know, what it is that we're administering, and that if this is something that they don't want their kids to take, that is really clear for them to do and easy to do as well.
from a procedural standpoint, I'm looking at the calendar. We will debrief and talk further about this. Time may be the enemy here, but we'll see what we can do in terms of reconvening the Wellness Committee. But the runway is pretty short in terms of the school committee here. But we have some things to debrief on, some exploration with JSI from the timeline standpoint. So we'll have this clearly on the next agenda, I would imagine, for the 14th of May, and at least, but we'll have to see where we can get to, and we'll report back. We'll report back. We have some work to do. Okay.
That seems fine. Again, I think that we need to kick it back to the Wellness Committee. Clearly, part of this pause is we are stewards to the community, and so if people are coming to us and saying, whoa, 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 I am not a wellness expert, and so I want to make sure that I'm sort of like really thinking carefully about saying, don't do it, that's why I think having the Wellness Committee is important, because you are the experts in that area, and you're working directly with some of these companies, and I'm not, but I am listening to those around me, and I want to be sure that people feel that we are listening to them and that we're comfortable, we're also making the right choice. I don't think making the right choice for us is to make a decision right now. I think it's to say to the wellness people, okay, please, you hear this, you clearly hear that there are some people that are not comfortable. I like the idea of kind of thinking about an opt-in, opt-out. I'm just curious about that. I don't know if they would even allow that, but I am curious to know like what that would look like for us. And I think if timing doesn't work, and I think it's a 2-year, right? So then we wouldn't really be, you can't just do it when you want to do it, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So it is what it is, but I think we need to sort of rethink some of this and be more thoughtful and careful. I like the idea of adding, I'm seeing some of that here, alcohol, tobacco, nutrition. I think that, will the Wellness Committee come back and say we've decided to remove the sexual health from the middle school? I don't know. So I'm just kind of thinking, like, let's bring it back to the experts and then have them bring it back to us.
Yeah.
And again, technically, we don't usually vote on this. That is not usually what happens, but obviously in the climate, this is a little bit different.
Yeah, I think I would add, maybe a contrary opinion to my colleagues. I almost lean towards a 2-year pause, because I feel like with everything we've brought up, opt-ins versus opt-outs, questions, wordings, what we include, what we don't include, I feel like timing, calendar, the Wellness Committee, it feels like we're trying harder to get this in than we are to doing this right. So I'm comfortable, I think, with the process that we've laid out, going back to the Wellness Committee, so long as, the problematic, quote-unquote, questions, wording are addressed, the ages that we've talked about, the opt-ins versus opt-outs, giving parents several opportunities between now and if and when the survey is administered to opt their children out. I think we need to take a real hard look at how we do this in the future, because I don't know that this process is working the way we want it to. So, but do you feel like you have enough to take back to the Wellness Committee to at least start for the time being?
Yeah, and I think we can report, yes, and we can report back on the 13th.
Okay. 14th.
Oh, the 14th, sorry.
Yes. The Wellness Committee meets on the 13th, I think, correct? Is that what you said? Okay. Ms. Lord?
I'm just, given that 6th grade, there's already an option without the sexual behavior section, I would just wonder if that is the primary concern of parents in the community, because I'm not 100% clear on if that's the only section that's really bringing up concerns or if there's others. But if that was really the concern, then what I would wonder is an option to either at the middle school level, perhaps, have that across the board, or give parents the option to choose that for their student, to not have that section, so that we really look at what is the data that really the community feels good about, that we really do want to be able to collect, and what is really a concern, rather than an all or nothing.
The opt-out numbers are highest in grades 6 and 7. And then they dwindle significantly down through 8 through 12.
Yeah, and I would wonder if they could exclude that section, if more parents might feel comfortable having their students take the other sections.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes the superintendent's report and brings us to our first item of new business, which is the elementary school improvement plan update presentation from our elementary principals. Thank you. Good evening. Appreciate your patience in joining us this evening.
Next to you.
So as they're getting settled, And for the benefit, again, of maybe some of the newer members, I can't remember how many years we fell into this as an approach, recognizing that, despite having 6 elementary schools, 2 sides of town, and divided by their grade bands, ultimately, there were certainly some many efforts to have alignment across goals and initiatives and pursuits. And so rather than have these school improvement plans presented to you as an update, the thought was to do them collectively as a whole. And this is your elementary school principal team. Probably would be great to have them introduce themselves to you so you know who they are. Some of them I know you do. And then they will run through the slide deck that was in your packet. Just as a friendly reminder, this is here for informational only, to give you some insight into what they're focusing on in their school communities. This is not here for a vote, but we will follow with the high school next, and then the middle school later in the year. So, Diane, do you want to start us off?
I am Diane Kerr. I'm the principal at the North Intermediate.
Kate Bissell, principal at the Wildwood.
Kristen Walsh, principal at the Butwell.
Lisa King, principal at Shawsheen.
Stacy Scott, principal at the Woburn Street.
Michael Walsh, principal at the West Intermediate.
So we'll get started. Thank you so much. We'll get started. It's past our bedtime. First, we want to thank you for having us here tonight. As Dr. Brand mentioned, the elementary schools work collaboratively with our school advisory councils to develop our school improvement plans. And 2 years ago, we started this work. We had a 2-year plan. So now that we are entering into the spring of 2025, those 2-year plans are coming to the end. So we are here tonight to represent, kind of the work that we've done and to kind of share that information with you. So without further ado, we will get started. I don't know, is there a certain, there you go.
There you go.
So school goal number 1. So when we created this goal, we worked really collaboratively, both throughout all of the elementary schools in Wilmington to ensure that what we are doing in our schools supports our district strategic plan, but also we want to make sure that we are working very closely to make sure that the work that we're doing is both vertical and horizontal. So whatever is being done on the north side of town is also being done on the west side of town. And what we like to do is with the early childhood centers, what we start in our early childhood centers, we want to make sure that that kind of continues on as they progress through the grades. So our first school goal, number 1, was over the next 2 years, and again, this is thinking back 2 years ago, the elementary team will shift to the utilization of an evidence-based structured approach in literacy through Tier 1 instructional practices, universal screening tools, and targeted intervention. So I am happy to report out, you can see here, we had a long list of initiatives and actions along with measurable outcomes of success. Given the amount of information on these slides, and I know that you've reviewed them previously, and just to save some time, I'm going to just, inform you that objective 1, collaboratively, all of the staff in building administration and all of our schools participated in the district HMH professional development throughout the school year. All of the administrators sitting before you have conducted educator observations of the implementation of the HMH into reading curriculum. The district has also offered a shift in literacy workshop and also a literacy information night for parents and guardians. And that was Melissa Betancourt, who is our district literacy coordinator. She did, and with Christine Elliott, they did a lot of work with making sure that parents and guardians were brought into these conversations and were really informed. We also worked collaboratively to distribute the HMH into Reading family newsletters and provided available resources to our families and community on the district website about this implementation. So I am happy to report that after 2 years of work, we had teachers pilot this program the first year. The second year was this past year where we've all been implementing it. We have met this goal.
Generally don't like to ask questions in the presentation, but for folks watching at home, HMH stands for?
Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Sure. Yep.
So our second goal was students, staff, and families will experience an increased sense of belonging and connectedness to the school and greater community. So again, all of the elementary schools, we all had the same initiatives and very similar measurable outcomes of success. And we did feel that we were successful within those areas.
So at the early childhood centers, both the Boutwell and the Wildwood, we had targeted intervention groups were implemented utilizing the panorama data. Groups were created, lunch bunch, snack pack, kindness club, etc. Monthly community meetings were done throughout the years, emphasizing positive character traits connected to PBIS. We also were very involved in both community and school-based projects. We've supported the Wilmington Food Pantry, Locals Heroes, MSPCA, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, the Shriners Hospital in Boston, etc. There's many, many more to mention here. Both Mrs. Bissell and I have also partnered with other district schools. We've partnered with Wilmington High School, both with their Helping Hands program and their Reader Leader program. We've also partnered with the 7th grade readers and also students at the West for Book Buddies. Both Mrs. Bissell and I have had connections with the Wilmington Memorial Library, where we've offered kindergarten nights, and the Wildwood has also offered kind of a preschool afternoon for their families as well.
So for Shawshene and Woburn Street, and just to sort of explain the reason why this is broken down to the different schools is because this goal in particular, like it is also based on the culture and where you're at in your building. So for example, we do student leaders, they call it something different at Woburn Street. So that's why we broke it down, even though we all have the same overarching goal. It does, the different things that come up within your school community may look a little different, even though it's all still goes along with sense of belonging. So I just wanted to explain that. So at Shawshene, and again, this is just like a snippet of what we do, because there's still so much more that we are not sharing tonight, but towards this one goal, this is a snippet of some things. Yes, exactly. So at Shawshene, just some examples: exploring and incorporating enrichment opportunities for students before, during, or after school. And utilizing district grant and community resources. We started a music enrichment program this year. One of the examples was Drum Circle. We have student leaders. They call it something different at Woburn Street. Service Squad. We incorporate our PAC and our school councils in trying to help us determine the best enrichment programs to bring to our schools and our buildings. We have Read Across America. We've been doing a lot of work with the high school students. All of us actually have, with having them come in during Read Across America Day. We utilize the tutors at the high school from the honor program. So we're really trying to utilize students in the community and community members. One of the things that we were able to accomplish this year at Shawshene, which we actually have been working towards really for 2 years, is taking our student leaders and having them actually do their community service or community projects in the community. So we were able to go to on Veterans Day. One of the things was that we were able to go on Veterans Day to the veteran breakfast, and they sang a song, and all the students' artwork was hung up, and it was a big hit. And coming up in May, our student leaders are taking a bus to the senior center, to the new senior center, and they are going to be doing an arts and crafts project with the seniors, and then the seniors are going to teach them how to play bocce. So, like, it really took us 2 years to get to the point to actually try to plan, like, a thoughtful, sort of like a field trip, but community, and some of these things are happening outside of school hours. On students' off days, it was just nice to see.
Awesome. So at the Woburn Street, some of the other things that the Shawshene has done, we've also done, but we do daily morning announcements to incorporate our customs and traditions, celebrate staff and families. So whenever there's a various holiday or something, we try to grab a short video or just talk about it so that way their students are more aware of it. So, for example, we've shown videos of Diwali, and students get really excited to talk about it with their classmates that, like, oh, I celebrate that. I make those connections. We have all school community challenges each month that support community needs. This month we actually are collecting for the food pantry. We're collecting SpaghettiOs and beans, very specific, but that's what they said they needed. So we were very specific with what we were asking for this month with that. We've had some community partners share at the all-school community meetings. We've had a couple school committee members come in and read with us, which has been really nice. It's been offered to MSBA members. Fortunately, we have no more school community meetings this year, but we've had Veterans Association come in for that as well, and they'll be coming in at a Memorial Day celebration, so they're coming in as well. Increased family involvement in school volunteer activities, and they share their customs with students, so we've had a lot of families come in and share about Diwali or whatever traditions that they do with their child's specific classroom, and it's been really nice for, again, the families to come in and be able to speak with their child's classroom about what they do, and they usually do like a nice little craft as well with them. And then we do incorporated mindful skills into our morning announcements, as well as our all-school community meetings and within our specialists. So the students are always getting a little snippet of something. So like every Monday we do Mindful Monday, every Tuesday we do Tip Tuesday, so every Wednesday is a Wellness Wednesday. So everyone in the school is on the same, getting the same information. And it's really nice for the community. I can say with the action, the goal itself, how do I know that we've reached this goal at Woburn Street? My school council actually completed a survey to help us guide us for our school improvement plan for next year. We're already planning for it. And we asked a lot of community questions already. And the majority, 90% of our families thought that the school culture actually was where it needs to be, above or right where it needs to be. So I know that this action step for Woburn Street has been successful.
At the West Intermediate, we've been using our panoramic data to create intervention groups, lunch bunches, social skills groups, friendship groups. We're also using that data to determine SEL lessons around topics such as personal space, resilience, flexibility, and transitions. We've had anti-bullying lessons happening in multiple places in our building, facilitated by our health teacher, our librarian, and our counselor throughout the school year. Our students, a number of avenues to participate and kind of give back to our school community and kind of build the culture. One of them is our reading buddies that our classes have been partnering with the Wildwood kindergarten classrooms, and usually visit them about once every other week. They read together. We also have our service squad, and new this year is our student council. Our student council was a big hit with our students. We had a lot of kids applied that want to be part of it. Some extracurricular activities that we have happening at the West. Girls on the Run is in year 2. We also have Math Olympiad happening. They're actually competing next Saturday. That's been going on for the past 2 years as well. The Shawshene West PAC has been very supportive as well, providing, as Lisa had already mentioned, the STEM enrichments and also the Read Across America, along with some other activities that they're going to be facilitating for us in the coming month. Also our PBS team, which meets monthly, also analyzing that data that we're creating through Panorama and other avenues, focusing on building positive school culture.
And at North, we're somewhat redundant to what everyone else has said. However, I'll be quick. So we also are doing Mindful Mondays to practice mindfulness, getting the week off on the right foot with our clinical staff. We also have service squad students who are doing things around the building. Some of them are cleaning the snail tank. Some of them are delivering mail, things like that. This is the first year in a while that we were able to have the veterans from the Wilmington Veteran Services come to North, and we had a really great presentation with them. And for Read Across America, we had many of you sitting around the table come to read to our kids, so they really enjoyed that. And then we also are doing Math Olympiad and, again, the math tournament next week in Burlington, I believe. And then for School Goal 3, we foster equitable and inclusive schools through a variety of avenues, supporting the well-being of all members of the school community. And then these were all of the initiatives and measurable outcomes. Does Child want to go first again?
Yep, definitely do. We
Belleville and Wildwood Early Childhood Centers have very similar sections up here. We both did a lot of work in terms of auditing our classroom spaces, both the libraries and the play materials, to make sure that they were reflective of our student population, and as well as providing, the mirrors and windows that we're seeing themselves, students are seeing themselves reflected, as well as providing them an opportunity to see outside of their current reality. So we have done a lot of work and really made some purchases to support making sure that our classrooms are reflective of what they need to be reflective of. We've done a lot of training with staff in terms of equity, inclusion, culturally responsive teaching, and inclusive language. And we're working with our sort of greater district team to make sure that we're supporting families who need any types of supports through wraparound services.
Great, so Shawsheen, and again, a lot of these things are similar, and some are individualized based on where we're at in each building, but I think we've all been very successful with the homeschool communication, translation, accessibility in home language this year with all the things that we do, with our s'mores communication and Lexikey and all of the tools that we've learned ourselves this year. That has been a very positive experience for our families. This is specific at Shawsheen. We did do an audit and a survey for classroom teachers. Part of my school council found a survey that we wanted to do with them on classroom libraries to get an idea of what kinds of books and materials they would like to see in their classrooms. We know that every year so many new books come out, and we want to be up to date with our collections and our classroom libraries. And from that information, we were able to increase our inventory of books representing of various cultures, abilities, and identities. It says we're on target with carousel referrals. I think that's for everybody. I think that we are on target in general with all of that for all of the schools.
Accessing it.
Yes.
So at Woburn Street, this year that we have really utilized culturally responsive teaching practices. From DESE, we've utilized the optic within my school building. We've watched some of the videos, talked about it, and the classroom teachers are actually doing their own classroom walkthroughs this year. They just started those, so that they can go in, do little observations of each other, get that feedback for themselves, and they do some glows for the teacher. They don't have them grow. But they just, support each other, which I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from staff about that. So we have increased knowledge of holidays, customs celebrated by staff and students, again, utilizing our morning announcements. We do book buddies on a regular basis throughout the school, so every classroom has another classroom that they're buddied up with, so at least once a month they go and they do book buddies, so usually they do a little STEM project with them or just something fun. And we've done a lot of PBS learning videos on specific topics within the classroom. That way the students are, again, we're all learning the same information.
At the West Intermediate and also at the North Intermediate, we have very similar action steps that we've done. Both all home communications provided in home language, especially the weekly newsletters that go home to families. Use of care solids to support the well-being of all of our students, the diverse and inclusive options in both of our school libraries and also in our classroom libraries as well.
So you probably wonder, where do we go from here? So as we mentioned, we are at the conclusion of this two-year plan. I'm happy to report that we have been working collaboratively with our school advisory councils to develop another two-year plan which supports the district strategic plan. And we have gone through our district strategic plan and identified different areas under each objective as to what we want to focus on looking at the spring of 2025 and moving forward. So we are in the process of working with our school advisory councils right now. Our hope is that we will finalize those plans and we will be able to report back to you in the fall on what those plans look like and what the work we will do to continue for the next 2 years. So at this point, does anyone have any questions for any of us?
I'm going to start.
They're like, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I will, of of course, let my colleagues ask I'm sure the hundreds of questions they have, but sincerely, thank you. I always like this, the presentations like this, especially with my kids not being in the elementary levels anymore, to see what you guys are doing and to hear what's going on. I think it's great. I want you to know that as you were sitting down, Dr. Brand said, because you're here so late, you can take tomorrow off.
Perfect.
That's what you said, right?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair, yes.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic, but I'm sure it'll probably rain, so.
Right, of course. But no, sincerely, thank you. This is great. Questions or comments? Dr. McCaldy, Mr. Golden.
Sure. 2 questions. So first off, thank you all for coming. Great presentation. Really see how the schools are getting really aligned a lot better over the past couple of years. That's awesome. So I was wondering if you've seen any initial data on literacy program changes having effects on the students' abilities, because there was a lot of discussion about that, off the record, of course, but on the record.
Yeah, so the program itself is brand new. So, right now we collect data, they do fluency assessments throughout the year, and we're going to be getting more data at the end of May to be able to look at some of that. The feedback we can give you is that from walking around the classroom and engaging and observing and just from hearing from our teachers and all the professional development they got, that it does seem very positive, that students are engaged. They're engaged in literacy, they're learning, they're doing small groups, and the teachers, they seem very positive about the program so far. So we're still at the early stages, so we don't have data to share about their actual progress yet, but we do collect data, and I think our last meetings were at the end of May.
Okay, great. And then one other question. There's a lot of stories of success from Goal 2 and Goal 3. So I'm just wondering, with all these actions that took place, are you sensing that the schools are actually seeing a better sense of belonging? You're kind of bringing in families, different cultures, and everything like that coming in. Are you feeling that somehow?
Yeah, so I can kind of take that one. So as I mentioned when we did the presentation, both the early childhood centers, as an example, we've worked really collaboratively with the high school. And one of the programs that I've been able to be a part of is, we kind of called it the Helping Hands program. And it's a program that was initiated by Wilmington High School staff member Dennis Ingram. And this is it's been very successful, and we have high school students who visit the Boutwell weekly. And it gives students an opportunity to build meaningful relationships with the younger students. And these visits offer a chance for both the high school students and our younger students to participate in activities together. And it's really kind of strengthened that sense of belonging. I think it's not just, what's been great is that students have reported out in meetings with their teachers, with their parents, that they feel supported. They feel like they're part of a community. They're excited about education. They're excited about wanting to potentially become a teacher. And we've had 2 of those students who are now doing their senior internships at the Boutwell, because this opportunity has really kind of lit a fire for them, and they really want to pursue education, which has been really fantastic. And I think it's great because our younger kids get to see, this is what it's going to be like when I get older, and this is an exciting thing to see. And so there's a lot of sharing of different stories, and the kids have really been super appreciative of having that opportunity, and they just feel so comfortable. And again, I think it's building those relationships with other trusted adults in the district that would not have been made possible without that. So that's one of the success stories that I'm able to share out through my building, and I know there's more, but that's just one that I thought I'd like to highlight.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. So it's really great to see that connection from the youngest age all the way to the the oldest
Seniors,
age.
we have 2 seniors now, and they're doing fantastic.
Yeah, it's
so.
great.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mr. Golden.
Thank you all of you for being here and for sticking it out. 2 questions. Care Solace. I'm a bit new to the committee still, despite not being the newest member now. What is that?
So Care Solace is our referral program. I think we got it maybe a few years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And so what it is it's available to support any families that need a therapist or counseling, and it works very quickly. The first year, it was a little slower. This year, I think it's picked up a lot. I mean, anyone can give a Care Solace referral, and we can give it to a staff member. It's called a warm handoff. I mean, I will tell you,
they
it's
do the
very
groundwork for you. So
you don't
as a
have to
parent
find.
don't have to find someone.
Great.
They'll send you, you put the referral in, and usually the counselors will do it, or, but anyone can do it. You put the referral in, and then you get the information from the family, and within days, the family will get an email and phone calls and try to hook them up with the supports they need outside of school.
That's awesome. Thank you.
It's I think it's been very successful.
Time passes quickly, but I actually think it was coming out of the pandemic.
Was it? That
21,
long ago, yeah.
21 that we
Okay.
brought it on board, so.
Awesome. And my second question is a bit broader, and I tend to do these, and I'm sorry, so whichever one of you wants to take it. All of the material in Objective 3 that pertains to diversity or inclusion, to what extent, and I don't mean discrete as in hidden, I mean discrete as in measurable, like DISCRETE, like that one, like to what extent is like a piece of curriculum that falls into that category, like you can pull it out and say, okay, this is what we did on X day, and we read this book, and it touched on this story about including everybody. Do you catch my drift here? Like, to what extent is that material in this objective something you can point to and say, on this day we did 30 minutes of that?
So I don't think we have anything necessarily like that. However, the panorama data that we do at the beginning, at the end of the year, we'll be able to measure by class, and then we can actually look at that data and we can see, okay, this group of kids they did really well on self-efficacy, or they did really well on sense of belonging. So I don't know that we can pinpoint like a successful lesson or a successful, but I think that we can see, and we're in the midst of that right now, so we should have that data by early in May, so we can actually still see, are there kids that really need us to be, our counselors need to check in with.
Yeah.
And I would say also kind of related to that we use some of the platforms like Panorama, and it might identify a need in a certain classroom or with a certain group of students, and we have done some work to gain resources for each of our schools so that when we identify that need, we have the resources to provide some support for that, whether it's through often like a small group counselor session, that now they have more access to more specific materials to do those lessons with those students.
Yeah. Panorama has like thousands of lessons that teachers can access. You can type in any kind of subject topic. It will even goes along with the data to identify you need a lesson on self-advocacy for your classroom, or something's going on that popped up. And so what is a quick, you can even do it by time minutes, like length of time, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's pretty amazing. And within our curriculum, our reading curriculum, I know you talked about diversity. Within the curriculum, that they're using, it has a lot of stories that touch upon cultures and diversity. It's all already embedded within that, and questions and things like that. So that is within the curriculum.
Great. Can I just, like a 1.5 follow-ups?
Maybe only if it's a half.
Let's see how the one goes first. So to what percentage then of this that's on this screen is coming from Panorama as like the main source, would you say?
I mean, this is a variety of all the different things that we're doing. Panorama is one component of many
one piece
things.
of the pie.
Yeah, it's one of many.
Because it sounds like you like click and you pull out like, okay, like I can do this lesson and then.
Yeah. We also do mark bullying.
Yep.
We all do that. We do PBIS is huge, mark bullying. Our counselors will go in and do lessons on certain topics. Our health curriculum covers a lot of topics during our health. We're very fortunate in elementary. We actually have a health specialist. A lot of districts don't have that. So that is another means of them to be able to provide, curriculum.
I asked because this came up in our previous discussion of opt-outs, and I am going to go back to it because I would be remiss to not discuss it. Because the Supreme Court, this summer, they haven't decided on anything yet, but like they are going to be discussing whether parents have the right to opt their children out of certain material that would fall into this category, these categories. So as a district, I would like us to be prepared to have opt-outs in place, not because I think that it's a good thing. I don't think it would be a good thing, but because the choice is between having opt-outs in place and getting rid of all of it. So that's kind of, again, very serious, very much outside the scope here, but rarely do we get all of you guys kind of in one place. And we were just talking about it. So that's why I'm trying to talk about which pieces are discretely measurable, so we can then, again, I'd be a downer, but sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Agnew.
So thank you all very much. Hearing, I'll echo Mr. Fennelly's comment that not having kids in the elementary schools anymore, they've moved on, that I don't have this kind of the same window into the day-to-day stuff that's happening in the schools. And so it's really great to just hear all of the different things that you've been doing. So that's been a real pleasure to get that recital. I loved coming to the North to read to the kids. That was like the highlight of, I forget, was it February? I can't remember when it was. I was just so excited for it for weeks. I had the book I read on my Kindle, but I couldn't find my own hard copy of it, and so I got an interlibrary loan through the Wilmington Library, because I just couldn't bear going in to read to fourth graders or fifth graders on a Kindle. It's just like, no, I need to have a paper physical book. It was fantastic. Since you're now talking and thinking about the next year's and the next year's plans, I do want to, I have some requests, and they really kind of go to the structure of the plan and the way that goals are framed along with measurable outcomes. So, for example, school goal 1. So we're going to shift to evidence-based structured approach in literacy, et cetera, et cetera. To me, this is not really a goal. This is a means. It's like, what is the reason we're doing this? The goal is increased literacy. The goal is that our students read better, and this is a means to that end. And so I would, as you kind of think about and structure the the plans for the next 2 years, I would request that there is kind of thought given to always, but is this really the end in itself, or is this just a means to some more important end, which is the actual goal? Because I think that also then gets us to the measurable outcomes, which is that when you just say that the goal is that, well, we're going to shift to evidence-based, structured literacy, then you just kind of say, well, we did these trainings, we had these professional development, all of which is really important, obviously, all of which has to happen, and therefore you say, well, we did the thing, we made the shift, we met our goal. But it's like, but the goal, this is not the real goal. It's like, so I would ask that in some of these big picture goals that they be thought a little bit more in terms of, but what is the real end game here? What is it that we hope to ultimately achieve by pursuing this strategy? And some of these I know are harder than others. Like the academic side of the goal is always much easier to come up with measurable outcomes. You can look for increase on DIBELS. You can look at the local assessments. You can look at MCAS scores. And when you get to things that are more about will experience an increased sense of belonging and connectedness to the school, that's always harder to measure. I mean, we have panorama data. We have various surveys, but it's always, that's a little bit tougher to measure. And I would argue that, for example, is much more of an end in itself. Like, it's almost just self-evidently obvious why that's going to be good. One other thing that I just want to point out, and this again kind of goes to the measurable outcomes of success. Like, if you look at the third school goal 3, equitable and inclusive schools, the very first initiative action that's listed is that communication will be provided to all families in their home language, to ensure they have equal access to related information. The measurable outcome of success is listed as school and classroom-based newsletters will be available in all home languages. Translation and tools will be available for ESL learners. To me, you could swap these and it would be exactly the same. Like, you could just as easily say school and classroom-based newsletters. That's the initiative. Will be available in all home languages, and the measurable outcome is communication will be provided to all families in their home language. To me, it's really just saying the same thing twice. And so again, kind of thinking in terms of where possible, and again, I do absolutely recognize That there are places where it's just really tough to think about, like, what exactly is the measurable outcome of success? What is it, that the families are happier, that they have their information in their home language? I mean, the outcome is that they understand everything that's going on, that you have better communication with the school. But I think that as much as we can kind of move towards those, I would say those two things, of where possible, really thinking about, like, well, what is the true measure of that we've succeeded with this initiative because we accomplished what we were ultimately hoping to accomplish, and then thinking about that in terms of, is something a goal, or is it really just a means to what the real goal is?
Well, thank you for that feedback. We'll be sure that when we develop the next ones, we'll take that under advisement. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you all very, very much. I can say part of what I've encountered this year was the Veterans Day breakfast. Fantastic. Being able to come into the classroom and read to the all-school community meeting and being able to read for America, those were phenomenal sorts of experiences for me as windows into the schools and the activities and reflective of all the other things you guys are doing, and all fantastic. And to David's point, yeah, things I made sure I had the book hard copy because I wanted to read from that as opposed to a printout or whatever. So very, very good activities. One request and one question. The request is, when I look at Objective 3, there's a lot of discussion about the building-based libraries, and my perception is you all have fantastic libraries. When I look at Objective 2, I think, and I presume it did happen, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to involve your building-based libraries in the type of work that's envisioned by Goal 2. And so it was explicitly mentioned in 3, but I presume it happened in 2, but I would, if it didn't, I think there's more opportunity there. So your libraries are great, and I would like to encourage that. The one question is, as you move to next set of goals, how do you make sure you sustain the progress you've made? These are all good things you've been doing, and you guys are really, really busy. Your teachers are really, really busy. The next set of goals shouldn't push, obviously the literacy program, for example, is kind of self-evident, but maintaining and sustaining what you've built is really important as well. And so how do you balance sustaining this with the next set of goals? I mean, do you do 2 goals instead, or do you do 3 goals and try and have built this in tightly enough that it'll self-sustain? How do you view these goals carrying forward, the existing ones?
Well, one of the main things we do is that our district strategic plan is our guide. So that is the first thing that we always go to, because we're always looking at it and referring to it. So that is how we develop these, and that's where we'll go back to. We're gonna go back to that, like Kristen said, and look at that list and say where we are as a district, where we are at schools. Then we incorporate our school councils, and then after we incorporate our school councils, that's when we all meet together to align as best we can to then, go back and look at the district strategic plan. I think for maintaining, it's just what we do as good educators, right? Where we evaluate, we supervise, we lead, and again, all of these things are still in our district plan. Yep. So they're not forgotten. It's something we're always going to continue to work on. We will most likely grow from these goals to the next step. Like, yes, we needed to have a goal to get the staff on board with the new reading program. There were a lot of steps that took up finances, that had to do with professional development, a lot of things that we had to do, and we had to do as a school to get that off and running. Now that it's off and running, we're gonna meet, we're gonna talk about what are the next steps now. It will be, like the question was, well, how do we know it's working? Well, now that we have a year under our belt, maybe that's where we're going for the next 2 years.
Okay. And I think to piggyback off of that, like a lot of our work with, for example, PBIS, when we started it, we rolled that out, we implemented that. Then we were developing, all the different processes. Then we were looking at our tier 1 supports. We were developing those tier 1 supports. Then what we did is we built off of those tier 1 supports, and then we started building in tier 2 supports. So it's all kind of like a ladder, if you will. So we're maintaining it because we are utilizing that daily, but we're building off of that. So it's kind of that solid foundation. And then we revisit that. We take some of that data, we look at it, we might need to make a few adjustments, but it's really something like we have that solid foundation we're continuing to build. We just don't say, okay, we did that, we met it, goodbye, because a lot of our work is building blocks.
Okay,
so
makes sense, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just add a comment to that?
Please.
I think part of the benefit of the fact that this committee approved a 5-year strategic plan allows these plans to be much more sustainable over time, because I literally spent today pulling out the action steps that we're going to be focusing on for 25-26 to share it with these folks so that they can start to look at that and think about, okay, what's the next phase of the work that we need to do that would be at the school level. So that 5-year plan really makes these much more of a living document that's actually happening, that's not just for the sake of a presentation, but becomes a sustainable part of the culture of the school.
Perfect. Thank
I
you.
would add on to sort of exactly what they were saying. I know in the meetings that Kristen and I have had with our school advisory councils is that a lot of what we're talking about moving forward are literally the next steps from these goals. So we have the tier 1 instruction, so now what does tier 2 look like, which requires the maintenance of tier 1, but now bringing it to the next level. So it is literally taking this plan and stepping one step forward.
And just to add one last thing to that, a key component to all these goals is building a positive school culture that involves not just the students, but students, staff, families, all stakeholders in the community, and building a positive culture in all these schools is going to support the next level of where these goals are going to go in the future.
Thank you.
It wouldn't just go away at the end of the cycle.
Thank you.
Micah?
Sure.
I kind of lost my train of thought, but I think I'm going to get it back. So thank you for this. I'm really excited to see this update. I don't know if we always do an update. We don't always do an update, do we?
I think we have since we started the
Or-
2-year.
It's nice, like, it's kind of a nice, like, I'm like, I feel like I know the school, like, the school improvement, but I feel like this is like a different approach to it. So one, the cohesion, which you talked about earlier, is just, like, just in the past, even 3 year, right? But it's so exciting, so kudos to you for building such an incredible leadership team, because this is pretty amazing to be able to sit across from all of you. I had the great fortune to tour all of your buildings, some of them twice, when we were meeting with the interim superintendent candidates, and every one of them, you know, obviously in public, it was so great, but really like walked out and said, oh my goodness, like the culture feels so good, right? And I agree, I hear you, I totally agree with David on this, and I actually think, well, I know you have the data. It's not always as transparent to the community and to us. So I know you have it. I know you have all the but I feel like when you're presenting out, we're sort of like keeping that as teachers. We kind of keep that to ourselves. Like, we know what our list is. We know exactly who's in our intervention group. Like, and it doesn't seem to make its way out. And I think actually it would be helpful for people to see that sort of data. So I know it's there. I just think when it comes to these sorts of things, it's like more general, because, you know, we don't want to get into the numbers. But I think sharing some of that would be really helpful for us. And I'm excited to see this new reading program. I got glimpses of it, and I would love to I'd love to hear some feedback from teachers and children about what they love, what they don't love, like the shifts they're going to make. And then to look at that data in May to see what sorts of changes have we seen across I know you're collecting the data all the time, so I'm excited to see what that looks like on our end. But I just think it's great to hear this update from you, and I'm really excited to see that you're using the culturally responsive teaching and leading. So I didn't realize that was actually being used kind of so consistently, so that's exciting, and I would love to learn more about that kind of as you move forward. I hope that continues into the next set of goals. So thank you for being here tonight. I know it's not what you were well, maybe you were anticipating this evening, but sorry about that.
Speak to the goal line. As someone who does have a child in elementary school, the new program seems terrific to me. It was fortunate. My son in first grade last year was part of the pilot, and now second grade he's doing it again. So we really learned to read under the program. So I'm just really pleased, that the district took the steps to adopt a program that's aligned with the science of math, using structured literacy, to make a difference for kids. Really, like we know from the research, right, that kids getting those evidence-based literacy practices makes a huge difference in their ability to learn to read. And so he's loving the program. We're loving it. The books that come home are like the stories and the culture in that are great. So we've been thrilled with that. And then also just a thank you to you and the teachers, because I know what it's like to adopt a new curriculum, right? And the work and the training that goes into it. So I'm sure that was a huge undertaking. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I can go home and go to bed. Please go.
We're not done yet.
Yes. As we say to every guest, you're welcome to stay. We understand if you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would have changed orders.
All right. Thanks for hanging in. We're getting through it.
That's right.
Everyone, good night.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Good night. Next on the list, informationally, we're planning for school committee organization at our next meeting. So in the packet is our policy, which, side note, I think the policy subcommittee is going to need to revisit this.
Yes.
Because A, we do not elect the new chair at the first regular meeting following the election. It's often the second meeting. And we make mention in here of a clerk, and I think that's our secretary. So anyways.
The old format was the officers were selected on the first meeting and the subcommittees were done on the second meeting. That's probably why it's still sitting that way.
Yeah, right. And I think the last couple of years, we've done it.
In 2 years.
So.
We'll revisit it, okay.
But, so at our next meeting, the first item on our agenda will be, well, probably the Pledge of Allegiance, but then we will do nominations and elections for chair, vice chair, secretary. We will be provided with the information for subcommittees that we will then bring to our next meeting on the 28th, and we'll do subcommittee sort of reorganization at that point. Mr. Golden had his hand up first.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is just like, we're gonna have an opportunity to talk about like process stuff for the committee, subcommittees, how we process those. At my MASC training many months ago, which you're about to have a lot of fun of that. It's good. It's good. At that training, there was a little bit of a difference in perspective as to what they suggest with regard to how subcommittees are meant to operate and what we are currently doing. Mm-hmm. I would very much like, is there going to be a forum to discuss that and maybe changes we might make?
I would say yes. I think there have been some side conversations in the not so distant past about potentially considering reorganization or changes to subcommittees. I think Mr. Turner probably is holding himself back from making a comment right now. But yeah, short answer, yes. Mr. Turner.
So two different points. One, I have a proposal to reconsider what our subcommittee organization itself is. A suggestion on potentially consolidating some things and rethinking some things, and possibly adding one other thing, with the trade-off being slightly less subcommittees, but one new activity we might consider. I can go into more details now or save it for that other meeting.
I would save it.
The other point is more of the function of our subcommittees and perhaps even goals for them, was the idea that perhaps if we, in a summer seminar type session, as a group, we set goals for the subcommittees. And that might be a way to change, because, and potentially even schedule them all out for the year. Sometimes we have challenges with subcommittees. They're the last thing we schedule, and so sometimes they get delayed. And I know with some of the ones I've been involved in, they haven't been as active as we would have liked, which goes partly to my first comment. And then partly the second comment is if we're more thoughtful about what we expect the committees to accomplish, subcommittees to accomplish, and then even scheduling and some of those sorts of things, we can be a little bit more organized and be a little bit more efficient with our time on those, and hopefully get to some more tangible results for some of them. Some of them we have very tangible results in policy. Subcommittee's done amazing work this year, but others, subcommittee updates have not been quite so frequent for them. So that's the thinking on the two different topics, and I will save the other part for next time.
So Mr. Turner will submit whatever his proposal, which we will then be able to consider, discuss at our next meeting. And if that's our path forward, then we will reorganize our committees based on that. And if not, then status quo.
So he can email it to me and I can put it in the packet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And that's really cool. I'm very excited about that. I will say it's a little more subject matter oriented. I was actually thinking straight up like, should we be posting them publicly? Like, are they public meetings? Like,
We do, and they are.
Yeah, so our subcommittee agendas are posted publicly, and members of the public can join if they choose.
That's my whole avenue of questioning.
Sorry, I missed the point of your question.
No, it's not you. It's me being too wordy.
Mr. Exum.
And just a quick note that, we have made changes. Even this last year, we made some adjustments in the subcommittees. And I think that it's completely appropriate every year just to really, not just assume that all the committees need to go forward, but to really just, every year, just look at, are these the committees we need?
Right.
Are there any that we just don't need? Are there any that we should have? And any other changes based on our experience from the previous year? Does this set of subcommittees meet our needs for the coming year? I think it makes perfect sense for us to just really revisit that kind of from scratch every year.
I agree with that. I think that's sort of what we've done in the past. I think Mr. Turner's proposal probably has a bit more to it than that, but yes, agreed, and more to come. Okay, moving on. Item C, FY '24 end of year report audit, Mr. Ruggiero.
Thank you.
Thank
In
you.
your packet is a copy of the audit that was done in the FY '24 end of the year report back in October, November, December, I forget what month, but I gave you a copy of the report that basically details every penny that comes in and goes out of the district. So after that's done, auditors come in and just make sure we complied with all procedures and so forth. So here's the audit results. The report's a little different than what's been in the past. I think Desi probably changed the requirements. You can see that there was really only one finding, the same finding that we've had for many years, really since I've been here. And it's just that there's not a formal written allocation methodology. In the end of the year report, the town allocates costs to the school district. Every municipality, city or town, allocates costs to their school district. And the methodology that's been used in Wilmington is the same. I've been here since 2008, it was before me, and it's the same methodology. So the auditors, they go through it, they understand what we're doing. You know, it's not just a couple of numbers, it's a package I get from the town that supports everything that they allocate toward us, and we put that in our end of the year report. That's where it is. Should there be a written report? Yes, there should. We started it. I had a couple different roles in the district, so that kind of fell through the wayside a little bit. 3 town accountants now and so forth, so we'll look at it again and so forth. But the methodology has not changed, and that's why the auditors are fine with it.
Thank you. Questions?
I'll be quick, I promise. First of
you're
all,
fine.
as an accountant by trade, my original part of my career, it's a fantastic report, and I appreciate all the effort of your team that goes into that. I do think, considering the number of transitions, both here and on the town side, having that documented, just so there isn't any question down the line, would be worthwhile. Even if it's never needed, having it documented, so there's not any question. Somebody new at town says, oh, why can't we try this? We at least have it documented, and it protects the town and the schools in the future. And I hopefully not a lot of work, but.
Well, yeah, it can be done. We've just got to get to it. It's one of those things. It has no bearing on school operations or town operations. It's just the town, as an example, school resource officers. The town pays for them, and they allocate a portion of those costs to us, and that gets recorded as part of the net school spending of the school system. So that's kind of how it works.
Understood.
But I hear you.
Yeah. Thank you. That was brief.
Do you need a motion to approve it, or is that?
No, this is informational.
Okay. All right, given the late hour and with his blessing, we're going to move the MSBA project update from Dr. Brand to our next meeting, and because of our discussion in executive session, we are going to just pass on the interim superintendent contract update, which would bring us to subcommittee reports. Hearing none. Correspondence?
None this evening.
Future school committee dates and other notable items. We have this coming Friday, May 2nd, the 7th Annual Unified Game Day event here at the high school on the field from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Quick plug, great event. If you're here and you're free, please join us. It's always a great take, particularly the opening ceremonies. May 3rd is the annual town meeting here in this building in the auditorium, beginning at 9 a.m. Note, the meeting cannot begin until there's a quorum of 250 residents, so as close to 9 a.m. as you can get there, that would be great. May 9th and 10th, the 13th Annual Student Art Show at the Wilmington Middle School. May 14th is our next regular school committee meeting at 7 p.m. here in this room. May 20th, 2025, the National Honor Society ceremony at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. May 26th, schools and offices are closed for Memorial Day. Also on May 26th, the Memorial Day Parade. The Wilmington District Marching Band will participate in that event. And on May 28th is our next regular school committee meeting here in this room at 7 PM. Mr. Turner?
Yes, it's that time of year, sorry. So May 8th will be the 4th through 12th grade band vertical concert. Going backwards slightly, May 6th will be the 6th through 12 strings concert. Both those will happen here in the evening. May 12th, at 1 to 3 PM, there will be the Future Teachers Recognition event at the high school, where kids that are committing to colleges to go into teaching will recognize, similar to the athletic event that happens, where students that are signing their papers to go into college for athletics. It's a really cool event for future teachers. May 13th, the 6th and 7th grade chorus is in the evening. May 14th, the history fair, which is fantastic if you've never been for the freshman history program. And May 16th, senior prom, which is kind of an important event for some folks in the district as well. And then the last one was May 15th, the chorus for the 8th through 12th graders will happen here, 7 to 9 PM. Sorry.
No, and late breaking, Wilmington Middle School 8th grade moving on ceremony will be Thursday, June 12th, 2025 at 5 PM on the town common. I imagine weather permitting, but.
Weather permitting.
All right.
Sorry.
Please.
I'm sorry. So
No.
well, these are beautiful, so just take a look. We've never had invitations quite like this, so quite lovely.
And a lapel
Thank you,
pin?
Mr. Kyra, I know. But we did welcome Becky Lord to the committee, but we did not congratulate Jesse Fennelly and Stephen Turner for being reelected and for continuing to serve our town. So just a huge gratitude to the two of you, and thank you for doing this. And just a reminder that the list went around with all of the end-of-year activities, so to please sign up. We don't all need to be at everything, which is why Tracy has organized it in this way, but it is important to have school committee representation at all of those events. So we don't need to have all 7 at every event, but we do need to have at least a good number. And so thank you for starting to sign up. Graduation, we do like to have everybody, if it is possible and you don't have a prior commitment. I know sometimes, usually we're all there. And obviously town meeting is on Saturday, and I know we can't all stay the whole day, although some of us love to stay the whole day. But it is really important to show your face there at some point if you do not have a major conflict, so.
Agreed.
Okay.
Mr. Exdale.
And just one more quick addition to the calendar is tomorrow night is the latest CPAC meeting, which I haven't mentioned for a while, but that's a Special Education Parents Advisory Council, and so parents of special education children in the district, I recommend attending. They have a special guest, and there's a lot of great work and resources that CPAC provides. Yes. And it's a Zoom meeting, so you don't even have to go anywhere. And the link is in the agenda posted on the Wilmington Town calendar. And then we have a CPAC page on our website. But I just wanted to give a little shout out to CPAC because they do great work, and they would love for some more parents to be involved.
It's a great shout out. CPAC does do a great job. Again, congratulations on your first meeting.
Thank you.
And to Mr. Golden for a lovely addition to his family.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
They're not usually this short. No.
With that, Mr. Golden,
I move to adjourn.
seconded by Mr. Turner. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you and good evening.
Good night.
Good night.